Chapter 98. Little Prince. Lin Muyu turned around and said with a smile, I know your elder brother, big brother Qin Lei. We both serve the Holy Temple, there will be plenty of chances to spar in the future. There's no rush right now, right? Qin Yan's handsome face revealed a hint of a smile. I know you're my brother's friend. Don't worry, I won't harm you in the slightest. I just want to verify just whose defense is the strongest in this Holy Temple. Strongest defense? Yes. Qin Yan's appearance was not the same as Qin Lei's. He was a little more handsome. Holding the long spear in his hand, with a low roar, a golden dragon-shaped energy enveloped his body, gradually condensing on the Holy Temple battle robes. He said with a smile, You've also seen it. As a member of the Qin family, although I did not comprehend the god-binding chains of the true dragon bloodline, I have comprehended the dragon-scale armor of my mother's family. The dragon-scale armor is a third-grade defensive type tool spirit, known as the world's #1 defensive martial spirit. This is also the reason why I'm looking for you to spar. Then how does little prince wish to spar? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Qin Yan's face was still slightly immature. Scratching his head, he said with a smile, How about this? In the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, we'll mutually attack each other. Whoever can break the other's martial spirit first will be considered the winner. How about it? Lin Muyu thought about it and already had a plan in her heart. And all right then. Qin Yan immediately raised his arm and said, Deacon Guyang, please come over and be a witness for us. And that. Lord Zhang Wei, please come over and be a witness for the victory between me and big brother Lin Ji. Guyang had a helpless look. Little Prince Qin Yan, this doesn't conform to the Holy Temple's rules. We prohibit private fights. We're only going to determine victory and defeat, not life and death. Deacon Guyang, don't worry. Zhang Wei cupped his fists and stood at the side, saying with a smile, Lord Lin Ji, you have to fight for the Holy Temple sparring masters. At this time, quite a number of people came after hearing the news. In the blink of an eye, over 20 people gathered at the side, and Guyang had already lit an incense stick, saying, regardless of victory or defeat, the battle must stop after the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Yes. Lin Muyu and Qin Yan cupped their fists and saluted from a distance. In the next moment, Qin Yan suddenly shook the fire serpent spear in his hand. Immediately, dense flames covered the fire serpent spear. He was Qin Lei's younger brother. With regards to Qin Lei's strength, Lin Muyu was both respectful and fearful. This Qin Yan in front of him was presumably not much weaker than his older brother. Otherwise he would not have come to challenge her. Clang. Unsheathing the prairie flame sword, Zhang Xian exhaled his dou qi and flames immediately gushed out from the sword. Without holding back, he charged forward and executed the triple slash of the wind-riding sword art. Bang bang bang, dragon roars rose in a rhythmic manner, the dragon-scale armor around Qin Yan's body reacted. The prairie flame sword's 3 successive strikes were indeed unable to injure the dragon-scale armor in the slightest. Instead, it shook Lin Muyu's arm to the point of numbness. Furthermore, every strike felt as if it was striking a 10,000-year-old boulder. This dragon-scale armor was known as the world's #1 defensive martial soul. It indeed deserved its reputation. No worries, I can still do it. No need to hold back. Qin Yan laughed loudly. With a shake of the metal spear in his hand, the beast spirit with a fire serpent wrapped around it smashed onto the wall of Lin Muyu's gourd. Instantly, a tiny crack appeared on the outermost layer of the black tortoise armor. However, under the recovery effect, this tiny crack was rapidly repaired. Qin Yan was proficient in defensive combat techniques, and his offensive combat techniques could only be considered average. At the very least, he could not be compared to Zhao Jin's combat technique, which gave up on defense and focused on offense. Good gourd, interesting. Qin Yan's face flushed red. This brat was indeed a martial fanatic. With a clang, the heavy strike of the fire serpent spear sent Lin Muyu flying backwards. The long sword in her hand also flew out of her hand. Qin Yan quickly grabbed the opportunity, and with a thrust of his spear, he struck the hilt of the prairie flame sword, looking as if he wanted to send the prairie flame sword flying. However, right at this moment, bolts of lightning wreaked havoc in the air, tightly grabbing onto the prairie flame sword like an invisible hand. Furthermore, with a flash of lightning, the prairie flame sword rumbled over with dazzling lightning. Qin Yan did not know that Lin Muyu had grasped the 4-elemental imperial sword. He hurriedly took a step back, his feet piercing into the stone floor like iron pillars. The dragon-scale armor shone with a resplendent light, and the 2 defensive abilities of Rock Wall plus Shield were added onto the Dragon Scale armor at the same time. With a bang, the Prairie Flame Sword was sent flying, and a tiny crack appeared on the Dragon Scale armor. Lord Linji, good job. Qin Xiling and the other sparring masters clapped their hands in delight. Qin Yan was also stunned. Then shame and indignation climbed onto his face. With a shake of his arm, the chain of attacks of the Fire Serpent Spear came in a threatening manner. Lin Muyu controlled the Prairie Flame Sword to block through the air. Ding ding ding, sparks flew. This set of attacks was completely blocked by Lin Muyu with the wall of the gourd. Qin Yan's attacks were too swift and fierce. If she did not block, it would be very easy to be injured. Furthermore, Qin Yan was Qin Lei's younger brother, and was also considered one of them. Unless it was absolutely necessary, she could not injure him. In the blink of an eye, an incense stick of time was almost finished. Lin Muyu's mystic tortoise shell was already riddled with holes, and a large portion of the dragon scale wall was also damaged. However, the Forbidden Mother Tree's recovery ability was currently constantly transforming battle chi into the mystic tortoise shell and the dragon scale wall's defensive energy layer. Qin Yan's attacks had limited penetrative power, so he was naturally unable to defeat Lin Muyu. On the other hand, Lin Muyu only used Lightning Strike, Thunderous Frenzy, Imperial Wind Sword Art, and other sword arts to counterattack. She did not use True Dragon Essence Fire, Imperial Sword with Fire, or other moves with stronger destructive power. Therefore, she did not even manage to break through Qin Yan's shield armor. Lord Qin Yan, do your best. Many instructors who had just entered the Sacred Hall were all cheering for Qin Yan. They had entered the Sacred Hall with Qin Yan, and had long treated themselves as Prince Jining Palace's people. Therefore, they naturally would not stand on Lin Muyu's side. On the contrary, Guiyang, Zhang Wei, and the others who were familiar with Lin Muyu's moves all had faint smiles on their faces. Because they could tell that even though Lin Muyu seemed to be at a disadvantage, he was actually going easy on Qin Yan. Because the strongest killing move he had relied on to defeat Zhao Jin, Imperial Sword with Fire, was not even used. However, they did not know that Lin Muyu still had an even stronger ultimate art, 7 Luminaries Profound Energy. Naturally, Lin Muyu did not dare to easily reveal the 7 Luminaries Profound Energy in front of the world. After all, the 7 Luminaries Profound Energy was too shocking. Furthermore, he did not know what kind of glorious history the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor had. If he were to reveal the 7 Luminaries Profound Energy, there was a high possibility that he would attract a fatal disaster. The incense has burned out, end of battle. Guiyang used a trembling voice to announce and said, the degree of damage to Lord Lin Ji's defensive layer has surpassed Lord Qin Yan's. Therefore, in this competition, Lord Qin Yan should have a slight advantage. Overall, it can be considered a draw. Lin Muyu raised his finger, controlling the prairie burning sword through the air to return to its sheath. He cupped his fists and said, Little Prince, thanks for going easy on me. Qin Yan's face flushed slightly red. Nobody would have thought that he was only an 18-year-old youth, even younger than Qinin and Tang Xiaoxi. An 18-year-old youth already had the cultivation of the heaven realm. How terrifying was that? Big brother Lin Ji, actually, you won, I know. Qin Yan's personality was very straightforward. He cupped his fists and said, Qin Yan relied on the advantage of his bloodline and used the 3rd grade martial soul, dragon scale armor, to win against your 10th grade green gourd martial soul. This is not something to be proud of at all. In the future, when Qin Yan cultivates in the Holy Temple, I hope that big brother Lin Ji can give me some pointers. Lin Muyu could not help secretly praising him and said with a smile, Little Prince is too courteous. You're still young. If you were the same age as me and cultivate for another 3 to 5 years, I'm afraid I won't be your match at all. Receiving such praise, Qin Yan could not resist smiling joyfully. He scratched his head and said, Big brother Lin Ji, don't call me Little Prince anymore. You and my brother are friends, so naturally you're also my Qin Yan's friend. You can just call me Qin Yan. Just call me by my name. The people in the Duke Manor are all like this. Alright then. Lin Muyu was not some inflexible person either. She immediately said, Then I'll call you Qin Yan in the future. Let's eat. The Holy Temple's mealtime doesn't wait for people. If we go late, there won't be anything to eat. Okay. Qin Yan quickly caught up to Lin Muyu's pace and said with a smile, Big brother Lin Ji, your sword arts are so powerful. Who did you learn it from? Lin Muyu knew what he wanted to do with a single glance at his longing expression. She said, Do you want to learn the Imperial sword arts? That's very difficult. Moreover, you major in defense. Why don't you spend more time researching how to raise the defense of the dragon scale armor? Now I want to learn. Qin Yen clenched his fists and said, the 6 arts of martial ancestor: sword, riding, spear, saber, axe, shooting. Among them, the sword is the most important. I've always wanted to learn a unique sword art, but the teachers my royal father invited for me are mostly people who deceive the world. Their imperial sword arts are weak and weak. As long as I'm bumped, I won't be able to continue using it. I also saw it just now. Big brother Lin Ji, your imperial sword arts are vigorous and powerful. Please teach me this. Lin Muyu was still hesitating. He had already begun to teach Chu Yao the imperial sword arts. If he were to teach Qin Yen as well, it seemed like he could start his own sect and accept disciples. It didn't seem too good to let the sword elder know. Seeing Lin Muyu hesitate, Qin Yen became anxious and said, how about this? I can prepare a generous gift as the tuition fee for learning the imperial sword arts. 400,000 Jinyin dollars. How about it? Plus. And a piece of beautiful jade from beyond the heavens. A precious tribute from the northern desert Kagan several hundred years ago. How about it? Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh and said, Qin Yen, you are big brother Qin Lei's younger brother. Don't think of me as a greedy person. Alright, I can teach you the most basic imperial sword arts, but only the most basic. Don't make me teach you anything else. You have to rely on your own comprehension. Qin Yen was wild with joy and nodded his head repeatedly. He immediately cupped his fists and bowed, saying, many thanks, big brother Lin Ji. Due to Qin Yen calling him big brother, the people in the holy temple were all dumbstruck. Prince Jining's little prince actually acknowledged him as big brother in the holy temple. This seemed to further solidify Lin Muyu's position as the #1 person in the younger generation of the holy temple. In the afternoon, after the normal training, he taught Qin Yen a mnemonic chant for imperial sword with the heart, letting him go cultivate on his own. Qin Yen was the same as his older brother, Qin Yen. After obtaining a mnemonic chant, he focused on learning in a room in the side hall. With his noble status, no one dared to disturb him either. Now that Lin Muyu was free, he directly left the holy temple. It was time to go visit Chu Yao in the spiritual medicine department. She hadn't seen this big sister for a long time. Her heart was so empty that she seemed to miss her quite a bit. Chapter 99. Black horse carriages transported medicinal ingredients into the spiritual medicine department. Dusk was the warehousing time for the spiritual medicine department. Large amounts of medicinal ingredients purchased from outside the city were being transported into the spiritual medicine department. Chu Yao and the other alchemists were in charge of refining these medicinal ingredients into high-grade healing medicines, gold wound medicine, stone skin medicine, etc., for the various armies of the empire to use. Lin Ji of the Divine Temple requests an audience with Miss Chu Yao of the Medicinal Medicine Department. At the registration area of the Spiritual Medicine Department, Lin Muyu said politely. The 2 guards recognized him. One of them smiled and said, it's Sir Lin Ji. Are you here to look for Miss Chu Yao again? Come in, no need to be so reserved. I heard that you defeated the Gold Star instructor Zhao Jin in the Ares College's public trial. That was really amazing. The entire capital is now talking about your legend. Is that so? Lin Muyu felt a little ashamed. She cupped her fists and smiled. I was just lucky. Thank you both. I'll be going in then? Go. Take good care of Miss Chu Yao. She is the #1 beauty of our spiritual medicine department. Many high-level alchemists and nobles wish to see her, but she seems to only want to see you. Lin Muyu stepped into the spiritual medicine department. She felt a warm feeling in her heart. The alchemy hall was brightly lit, and all the alchemists were busy refining their medicinal energy. From afar they could see Chu Yao's graceful figure. Today she was wearing a light green robe and looked like she was floating in the air. Sister Chu Yao. Lin Muyu's call caused Chu Yao's body to tremble. She turned to look at Lin Muyu and couldn't help smiling happily. Ayu, how come you have the time to come see me? Didn't I hear that you were in confinement? Last time I wanted to go see you, I was refused by the guards of the temple. They said that no one can see you. How heartless. Lin Muyu naturally knew that Reiham was doing this to protect her. She walked up and sat on Chu Yao's refining table. She crossed her legs and said with a smile, how's your alchemy going recently? At the side, an old alchemist around 60 years old smiled and said, Miss Chu Yao is the youngest saint alchemist here. Alchemist saint? Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. Sister Chu Yao, you can refine level 7 medicine? Chu Yao smiled shyly and nodded. Yes, that's great. Lin Muyu was excited. She jumped off the refining table and hugged Chu Yao. Chu Yao's beautiful face instantly flushed red. She whispered, there are so many alchemists watching? Oh, I'm sorry. I was too excited. Lin Muyu hurriedly put her down and apologized. It's nothing. Chu Yao's voice was a little soft. Her beautiful eyes didn't dare to look at Lin Muyu. She whispered, I thought you had already forgotten me after meeting Princess Shi and Her Highness Yin. How could that be? Even if Lin Muyu was a blockhead, he knew that Chu Yao was jealous. Although his heart was in a mess and he didn't know how to put these beauties in their positions, he still tried his best to appease each and every one of them, so he said, Big sister Chu Yao will always be my good big sister. No matter what happens in the future, I will never forget you. Alright, how did you advance so fast? Chu Yao nodded and whispered, Yes, it's because of the divine alchemy cannon. I have already repaired some of the damaged parts of the cannon. That's why I was able to become an alchemist saint so quickly. Grandpa has always wanted to become an alchemist saint. I didn't expect that I would achieve this wish in the end. Lin Muyu held her shoulders and said seriously, If Grandpa knew your current cultivation, his spirit in heaven would definitely feel gratified. Moreover, Grandpa has already been avenged. You will be smiling in the netherworld. Yes. Oh right, how is Sister Chu Yao's cultivation of the Imperial Sword technique? Lin Muyu asked again. Just mastering alchemy is far from enough. After all, if you want to live well in this world, you still need to have a strong fist. Chu Yao giggled and said, The Imperial Sword technique? I can only control the sword through the air for now, but I still can't truly grasp the heart of the sword. You tell me, how did you grasp the heart of the sword in 2 days and 2 nights? I have been seriously cultivating for more than 10 days and still haven't grasped it. Well, Lin Muyu couldn't say that it was because of her martial talent. She rubbed the back of her head and said with a smile, It's probably because I didn't do it right? Continue to work hard, you will eventually comprehend it. As long as Sister Chu Yao grasps the heart of the sword, I can teach you the 4-elemental Imperial Sword technique. As he said this, he thought for a moment and continued, The 4-elemental Imperial Sword technique is enough to raise your martial cultivation by a level. At least it will give you the ability to protect yourself. Chu Yao held his hand, her eyes filled with joy. Her beautiful eyes swept up and down Lin Muyu's handsome appearance in the temple's battle robe. She said, Our Yu is now an expert of the temple. Even a level 70 heavenly king like Zhao Jin was defeated. You really surprised me. Your strength is now almost at the level of Big Brother and Big Brother Feng Jixing, right? Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a little guilty. It was hard to say whether he could defeat Chu Huairan and Feng Jixing now. Feng Jixing's wind blade technique was elegant and domineering, while Chu Huairan's star-plucking finger was extraordinary. Furthermore, the two of them had never used their full strength against him before, so it was hard to say who would win. More importantly, Feng Jixing was the commander of the Imperial Guards, so he must have experienced many battles. In terms of battle experience alone, he probably surpassed Lin Muyu by a lot. So he smiled and said, I don't know. Feng Jixing is a big brother that I will respect for my whole life. Chu Huairan is Sister Chu Yao's brother, so he is also my big brother. No matter who is stronger, I don't think we will have a chance to fight in this lifetime. Yes. Chu Yao smiled and said, You haven't eaten yet, right? How about you eat with me tonight? Okay, it's my treat. Okay. Chu Yao was now a medicine saint in the spiritual medicine department, so her salary wouldn't be bad. However, Lin Muyu's salary was even higher. As long as he was willing, he could quickly become rich in Lanyan City with his alchemy and weapon forging skills. However, money was just a number to him and didn't have any practical meaning. No matter how rich he was, his own strength was the most important thing. He brought Chu Yao to eat a delicious meal in a small alley on the side of Heaven's Passage Street. Afterwards, they went to the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce. At night, the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce was even more lively. Outside the Chamber of Commerce, there were many shops selling gems. They sold all sorts of beautiful gems. These things were the favorites of the noble madams and misses. Although Chu Yao was beautiful, she wasn't interested in these things. Instead, she was more interested in the long swords in the weaponry department. Lin Muyu saw this and said, Sister Chu Yao, you don't need to be jealous of those weapons. I will forge a good enough weapon for you soon. Don't worry, let's go buy the materials now. Yes. The diamond card user's status was noble, so she quickly found the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce, Jin Xiaotang. This extremely beautiful young lady beamed with joy when she saw Lin Muyu. Master Lin Ji, what do you need this time? Her gaze landed on Chu Yao, revealing a trace of amazement, and said, Wow, this time, Lord even brought a female companion. Cough, cough. Lin Muyu coughed, dispelling Chu Yao's awkwardness and said, Miss Jean, this time I came to ask for some high-level spirit stones and ironware. If you have them, please introduce them to me. Okay, do you have any specific requirements? I need an ice spirit stone with a long lifespan. The rest is up to you. Okay. Jean Xiaotang swayed her little but as she walked in front and said with a smile, Master Lin Ji's luck is not bad. The spirit stone store just received a batch of top-grade spirit stones from Lingnan. It is said that there is an 11,000-year-old frost Qilin spirit stone. I wonder if Master Lin Ji is willing to pay a high price for it? How much? Jean Xiaotang raised 3 fingers and said with a smile, I'll give you a discount, 30,000 Jining dollars. How about that? Lin Muyu looked at her inventory and said, Not enough, I only have 20,000 Jining dollars. Can I buy it on credit? Jean Xiaotang giggled as her eyes shone with wisdom. Then you must first tell me, what do you need these spirit stones for? Weapon forging. Weapon forging? Jean Xiaotang blinked, her face full of shock. What grade of weapon can Master Lin Ji forge? Mysterious grade, very low, right? No. Jean Xiaotang quickly shook her head and said, If mysterious grade is still considered low, then I'm afraid the blacksmiths in the imperial capital will be embarrassed. How about this, I can buy it on credit, but Master Lin Ji has to give me a portion of the weapon after you forge it and let me sell it in the auction house. This will increase the competitiveness of our auction house. Is Master willing? Okay, no problem. There was nothing better than a business that cost nothing. Jean Xiaotang smiled happily. This was business. She had the treasures that Lin Ji needed, and Lin Ji had the mysterious weapon forging skills that Jean Xiaotang needed. The transaction was immediately completed. When the 11,000-year-old spirit stone landed in her hand, a faint chill lingered in her palm. Lin Muyu clicked her tongue in wonder. Although it's very expensive, it is indeed a very valuable spirit stone. Jean Xiaotang giggled. Of course. I heard that a mercenary group from Lingnan sent over 2,000 people to hunt it down. More than 300 people died because of this ice Kirin, including a heavenly realm elite. Honestly, 30,000 Jining coins is too cheap. You can't raise the price just like that. Lin Muyu said warily. Jean Xiaotang couldn't help but smile. Xiaotang is a businessman and I am trustworthy. Don't worry, Master Lin Ji. Thus, other than this spirit stone, Lin Muyu also bought an 8,000-year ice spirit stone on credit, as well as some rare 1,000-year black iron and spirit stones under 5,000 year. After buying a large cart of things, Jean Xiaotang gave him a horse carriage and told him to drive it back to the Saint Palace. He would first send Chu Yao back, then quickly return to the Saint Palace. It was time to become a weapon-forging grandmaster that would be respected by the world. Chapter 100. Deep in the night, the flickering flames in the secret chamber flickered faintly as the energy of the cauldron spread throughout the room. Lin Muyu closed his eyes as the energy of the spirit pulse technique rippled out. He could feel the aura closest to him, but it was not strong. It belonged to an ordinary person, most likely a servant. This time, Lei Hong did not come over to peek at his training. Opening his palm, the pear blossom spear emitted a buzzing sound. This was a unique weapon and even Lin Muyu could feel the chill from the long hilt. Lulu's body slowly flew out and she said with a smile, Wow, it's the 1,000 cold wrought iron? 1,000 cold wrought iron? Lin Muyu was surprised. Lulu nodded, flapping her transparent wings and continued, The 1,000 cold wrought iron is a type of iron that has been condensed in a cold pond for thousands of years. It is extremely rare in the world, and it is also one of the few rare metals that contain cold spiritual energy. Big brother, this spear is a treasure. Although the soul refining energy is very weak, the iron within the spear itself is extremely rare. Just as I expected. Lin Muyu was secretly delighted. In Zhao Jin's hands, the pear blossom spear was indeed a deadly weapon. It was just that Zhao Jin did not know the true value of the pear blossom spear. Using a grandmaster's blacksmithing technique and a powerful spirit stone to refine the soul, the grade of the pear blossom spear could be raised to a whole new level. And tonight would be the day of the pear blossom spear's reforging. With a light push of both hands, the pear blossom spear immediately entered the flames of the cauldron. The third layer of flame refining, earth fire rose up, but it did not seem to be able to heat the spear very quickly. After burning for close to an hour, the pear blossom spear finally turned a fiery red. Lin Muyu did not dare to continue smelting it, or else the cold spiritual energy within the 1,000 cold wrought iron would run out. She hurriedly activated the earth fire and melted the spear. Just as the spear was about to be melted, a flood dragon spirit suddenly pounced on her. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. This was a young water dragon with a lifespan of over 3,000 years. Its power was very limited and it wasn't its match at all. Lin Muyu didn't even need to make a move. She just let out a low roar and her battle chi surged out. Just by relying on the wind from her battle chi, the pear blossom spear was completely destroyed. At this point, the pear blossom spear had become an iron paste without a beast soul. Hua hua! The fiery red iron paste flowed within the cauldron and was repeatedly refined. Streaks of fiery red starlight flew out, causing the iron quality of the spear to become even more refined. At the same time, Lin Muyu also took out the 11,000-year-old Frost Qilin Spirit Stone and placed it into the cauldron. She began to refine the Spirit Stone. With the two refining processes carried out at the same time, she was completely able to control it. The process of refining the Spirit Stone was even longer. After close to 3 hours, the Frost Qilin Spirit Stone finally began to slowly tremble, and the faint roar of a ferocious beast could be heard. Moreover, spiritual energy began to spread out in the surroundings, and a dense cold energy instantly enveloped the entire room. Even the stone bed at the side began to crackle with a layer of frost. The half-empty pot of wine on the table also cracked with a bang. Roar! Beast Soul Backlash. This was an unusually mighty ice Qilin, and it was an adult spirit beast. Its body was covered in dark blue scales, and its pair of icy blue eyes were emotionless. It opened its mouth wide and charged towards Lin Muyu. Although it was only a beast spirit, the aura of a king that had descended from the heavens was unmistakable at this moment. I've been waiting for you. Lin Muyu smiled slightly and raised her hand confidently. The burning prairie sword beside her was already prepared. It spun at high speed, and a spiral of true dragon essence fire slammed into the Frost Qilin's body before it could get close. The dragon flame spiral break's penetrative power was so strong that even the Frost Qilin's scales could not defend against it. In an instant, a huge spiritual energy wound was pierced through, but it still continued to roar and rush over. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth. She never thought that the beast soul contained in this 11,000-year-old spirit stone would be so strong. She hurriedly took a step back and with her left fist, the 7 luminaries Xian energy danced as she shouted, "Chaos of the common people." The Frost Qilin's spiritual energy was shattered, but it could not stop its momentum. It raised its sharp claws and landed on Lin Muyu's left arm, leaving a terrible scratch on it. Frost quickly condensed on it. Lin Muyu frowned. Damn, an 11,000-year-old spirit beast is really abnormal like a monster. Her right fist trembled slightly, and a blood-red demonic energy surrounded it. Before the Frost Qilin could launch a second attack, she punched towards its chest. 2 luminaries demonic dance. Boom. An extremely strong impact rippled out from her fist and directly blasted a big hole in the Frost Qilin's chest. The aftermath of the impact hit the inner wall of the treasure refining cauldron. Fortunately, they had the protection of the treasure refining cauldron. Otherwise, this attack from Lin Muyu would have turned the secret room into a pile of ruins. Roar roar, the Frost Qilin roared angrily, but it no longer had any strength to resist. The fire was like a giant dragon that wrapped around it, refining it inch by inch into spiritual energy. Drop by drop, it fell into the molten iron formed by the pear blossom spear. In an instant, the scorching hot molten iron seemed to have cooled down a lot. The Frost Qilin's pure power of ice was not fake. A numb feeling came from her left arm and Lin Muyu frowned. The Frost Qilin's attack was a bit ruthless, and the chill had already entered her body. She hurriedly circulated her combat chi to force the chill out. Fortunately, the heat in the treasure refining cauldron was very strong, or else she would have lost all feeling in this half of her body. As she healed herself, she reforged the pear blossom spear. Lulu redesigned the appearance of the pear blossom spear. The head of the spear was designed with a sharp triangular shape, giving it a murderous look. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, very meticulously sent her spiritual sense into the treasure refining cauldron to refine the spearhead repeatedly, turning the design of the spearhead into layers of blades. Although it did not look any different at first glance, in fact there were at least 100 layers of blades. Each layer of blades supported each other, greatly reducing the force of impact, greatly reducing the wear and tear on the spearhead, and also making the spearhead tougher and sharper. After almost half an hour of reforging, the pear blossom spear was reforged. It was even sharper than before and contained an endless chill. When the light from the treasure refining cauldron disappeared, the fiery red pear blossom spear actually cooled down by itself. The frost Qilin beast soul appeared on the spearhead, and with a roar, its spirit chi turned into snowflakes that floated down. With a pop, the heavy pear blossom spear fell into Lin Muyu's hand. Waves of chill seeped into her palm, and Lin Muyu could feel the frost Qilin beast soul responding to his feelings. Because this spear was personally reforged by him, he could use the pear blossom spear more smoothly than anyone else. The frost Qilin's power would be restrained and released according to his strength, which was very magical. Wiping away the sweat on his forehead, Lin Muyu said with a smile, "It's finally done. Lulu, what rank is this pear blossom spear now?" Lulu flapped her wings and flew slowly around his shoulder. She said with a smile, "According to the ranking of the Empire's armory, this pear blossom spear's spirit refining effect, frost iron purity, overall toughness and sharpness should all belong to the 6th level saint rank." 6th level saint rank? Lin Muyu asked with a smile, "Is it very powerful?" Lulu giggled, "The number of saint rank weapons on this continent is very rare, and there are less than 100 of them. Brother, do you think this pear blossom spear is powerful?" "Then it must be quite powerful." Lin Muyu was secretly delighted. If he took this pear blossom spear to the armory, it would definitely fetch a price of more than 100,000 Jinin coins. Money came so easily, but he didn't seem to need that much money. Moreover, he still understood the principle of a man's wealth being his own ruin, so it was better for the pear blossom spear not to appear easily in front of experts. Thus, he wrapped the pear blossom spear in black cloth and placed it in a corner of the secret room. Then he began to forge the weapon for Chu Yao. 8,000 years old frost spirit stone and a sufficient amount of 1,000-year dark iron were all very rare materials. It took almost 2 hours to complete. Its shape and design were somewhat similar to the pear blossom spear. The design of the sword hilt was like a budding pear blossom. The blade was like blood and had 3 blood grooves. With a light flick, it would let out a melodious sword cry. "Sister Chu Yao will definitely like this pear blossom sword," he said happily. Lulu flew to the side and said with a smile, 4th level mysterious rank, it's about the same as brother's prairie fire sword." He placed the pear blossom sword at the side and looked at the materials. There was still a lot of 1,000-year dark steel left, and there were various kinds of spirit stones between 3,000 and 5,000 years old. He began to forge them one by one. Because swords were more economical in materials, he used all of them to forge swords. Moreover, swords were the most popular weapons in the Empire, and they were worth a lot when sold. It would be a waste if they were used to forge battle axes, long knives and other long-handled weapons. All the work was only completed when the sun rose. A total of 5 swords were forged and they were named according to their appearance and spirit stone's attributes. Alcade, 1st level spirit grade, light attribute frost goose, 2nd level spirit grade, ice attribute heavenly sound, 2nd level spirit grade, ice attribute thunder slash, 2nd level spirit grade, lightning attribute swift wind, 3rd level spirit grade, wind attribute. He wrapped all the swords in black cloth without even preparing a scabbard. Lin Muyu had already made up his mind. According to the agreement, he would sell these swords to Jin Xiaodong's auction house, and he really needed money now. If he sold these swords at a low price to the Divine Sanctum, he might not even have the money to exchange for the 30,000 Jinin coins he owed Jin Xiaotong. He hurriedly ate his breakfast and packed the 5 swords into the backpack on the warhorse's butt. Then he turned around and used the white cloak of the Divine Sanctum's battle robe to cover the swords. Just like that, he went to the trading house in the capital with hope. Although these 5 swords were not rare, they were definitely not the inferior weapons circulating in the market. They could definitely be sold for a good price. Chapter 101. Uncle Wang, how is it? Have you appraised it? Jin Xiaotong, who was dressed in a long white dress, urged the appraiser beside her with a smile. Wang Jinyin, the #1 weapon appraiser of the Imperial Chamber of Commerce, was a middle-aged man in his 50s. He pressed his hand on the thunder slash and poured his true chi into the blade. Immediately there was a strong reaction. Streaks of lightning appeared on the blade. After feeling it for nearly 10 seconds, he opened his eyes and said, "Miss, this thunder slash is a 2nd stage spirit grade." Jin Xiaotong couldn't help but clap her hands and chuckle. "Wow, a high-grade spirit grade sword. That's great." She looked at Lin Muyu excitedly and asked, "Master Lin Ji, how did you do it?" There are many blacksmiths in the Imperial Chamber of Commerce, but they can only forge 7th stage spirit grade weapons with 4,000 years old spirit stones and 1,000 years old dark steel. How did you forge a 2nd stage spirit grade weapon? I can't reveal it. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. He didn't want to talk about it and Jin Xiaotong didn't ask. This deputy chief of the Capital Chamber of Commerce was shrewd beyond his age. He knew how to read people's expressions and weigh the pros and cons. To the Capital Chamber of Commerce, Lin Muyu was a cash cow. Moreover, he was a mysterious expert. This kind of person was priceless and couldn't be offended easily. At this time, Wang Jinyan moved his hand away from the alcade and said with a shocked expression, "Young mistress, this alcade is a first-stage spirit grade?" "A first-stage spirit grade?" Jin Xiaoteng couldn't help but be speechless and said with a smile, "That's great, Uncle Wang. Go and tell the Imperial Chamber of Commerce to spread the news that there will be an auction this afternoon and the main focus will be these 5 spirit grade swords. I believe many rich young masters won't let go of this opportunity." "Yes." Jin Xiaoteng turned around happily and looked at Lin Muyu. She said with a smile, "Master Lin Ji, I can't give you money for now, but can I invite you to the auction this afternoon? These 5 swords will be sold publicly. If necessary, we will introduce you to the blacksmith master." "No need." Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "I only want money. Everything else is not important. Miss Jin, please don't tell anyone about me. If I have any good weapons in the future, I will sell them here." "All right, little Tang understands. Then I will come to get the money after dinner." "Okay." Lin Muyu returned to the Holy Palace just in time for the morning training. Her opponent was Li Mingyi, the new Golden Star instructor who had just joined the Holy Palace. However, he was only a battle saint, 1 level lower than Lin Muyu. Therefore he was no match for Li Mingyi. Moreover, Li Mingyi had witnessed Lin Muyu's 4 elemental sword kinesis manipulation and was deeply shocked by it. Naturally, he respected Lin Muyu very much. Thus, the morning's training was boring. Even when Lin Muyu was sparring with Li Mingyi, Lin Muyu was secretly cultivating the dragon forging bone remnant scroll to increase the purity of his do qi. After the training was over, everyone gathered in the hall of the trial hall. Guyang walked over while trembling and said, "Dear lords of the Holy Palace, I have some news to announce. Our Gold Star instructor Zhao Jin has recovered from his injuries and has returned to the Holy Palace." At the entrance, Zhao Jin walked over wearing the Holy Palace's battle robe. However, because his right arm was cut off by Lin Muyu, his sleeves were empty. He looked out of place. His face was filled with killing intent. He held a new spear in his left hand and walked in step by step. He looked at Lin Muyu coldly and said, "Lord Lin Ji, you didn't expect that I, Zhao Jin, would return to the Holy Palace, did you?" Lin Muyu said indifferently, "You are a member of the Holy Palace. What's so strange about your return?" Zhao Jin held the spear with one arm and sneered, "Lin Ji, do you think that I, Zhao Jin, have become a cripple after losing an arm? Just you wait, I will make you pay for what I lost." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu raised an eyebrow and said, "You wanted to kill me first in Ares College's trial grounds. Then don't blame me for not being courteous. If you want to take revenge, I will accompany you anytime." Zhao Jin was exasperated. Just at this time, a person walked out from the Gold Star instructor. It was Qin Yin who was carrying the fire serpent spear. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Lord Zhao Jin, you still want to challenge Lin Ji after losing an arm? If you really don't fear death, I, Qin Yin, am willing to accompany you. I will be very happy to send you to hell." "Qin Yin." "Young lord," Zhao Jin's face turned cold. Qin Yan's status was completely different from Lin Muyu. He was a first-class noble. Even if Qin Yin killed him, there would not be any heavy punishment. Moreover, Zhao Jin also did not expect that Qin Yin would come to the Holy Palace. For a moment, he held his spear and did not know whether to advance or retreat. Guyang said loudly, "All right, don't quarrel anymore. Whatever grudges in the past are already in the past. Since you have entered the Holy Palace, you have to abide by the rules of the Holy Palace and are not allowed to fight privately. Otherwise, you will be expelled according to the Holy Palace's laws. Understood?" Lin Muyu and Qin Yin cupped their fists in unison and said, "Yes, head deacon." Zhao Jin glared at Lin Muyu hatefully and did not say anything else either. He carried his spear and returned to the team. There was nothing to do in the afternoon, so Lin Muyu slept soundly in the secret chamber for the entire afternoon, making up for the sleep lost from staying up late to forge swords the night before. All the way until it was close to dusk. After finishing dinner, he spurred his horse out of the Holy Palace and headed straight for the Imperial Capital Trading Company. Only after entering the trading company did he discover that there seemed to be more people than usual today. Jin Xiaoteng came out from the main hall to welcome him with a smile and said, "Lord Lin Ji, you've come? How was the auction?" he asked. "It was very popular." Jin Xiaoteng walked forward happily and didn't try to avoid arousing suspicion. She held onto Lin Muyu's arm and said with a smile, Lord Lin Ji, your 5 swords have attracted at least 3,000 customers. Even the commander of the Imperial Army, Lord Qin Lei, has come. He bought that first-tier spirit-grade alcade for 10,000 Jinyin coins. Damn. Lin Muyu sighed inwardly. Qin Lei actually wanted this sword. It looked like she would have to forge an even stronger sword in the future and gift it to this big brother who had once gone through life and death with her. What's the total value? The total value of the 5 swords is 37,000 Jinyin coins. I'll take 10% of the cost and round it up to a round number. I'll give you 34,000 Jinyin coins. Here, this is 34 diamond coins. Jin Xiaotang took out a heavy bag. Lin Muyu smiled and only took 4 diamond coins. He returned the rest to Jin Xiaotang and said with a smile, I bought a lot of materials before on credit, so these 30,000 Jinyin coins still belong to Miss Jin. Jin Xiaotang blinked and said, Lord Lin Ji, didn't you also buy a 11,000-year spirit stone and an 800-year spirit stone? Why don't I see the weapons of these 2 beast spirits? About this, Lin Muyu felt a bit helpless and didn't know how to answer. At this time, Jin Xiaotang's gaze landed on the pear blossom sword in his hand and couldn't help but exclaim, This sword, can you let Xiaotang take a look? Yes. Lin Muyu handed over the sword. Jin Xiaotang unsheathed the sword with a clang. The sword's blade was as bright as moonlight, and when she infused it with true energy, she found that the power of frost condensed into ice flowers dancing around the blade. It was extremely beautiful and she couldn't help but gape, Wow. Lord Lin Ji, what is the origin of this sword? It's so beautiful and it's too strong. Xiaotang has never seen a sword like this before. This is mysterious rank, right? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded and said, It's a 3rd-level mysterious rank sword called the Pear Blossom Sword. I made it for my friend so it can't be sold in the auction house for now. Moreover, I've bought almost all the high-grade spirit stones in the auction house. Jin Xiaotang giggled, You don't need to worry about spirit stones. Xiaotang will have people collect spirit stones from all over the world. Once there are spirit stones over 5,000 years old, I'll inform you. Is that okay? Lin Muyu helplessly said, Miss Xiaotang, forging these swords has already exhausted me to the point of exhaustion. Forging weapons is a very tiring matter. You can't continue to squeeze me like this. All right. Jin Xiaotang clasped her hands behind her back like a girl next door and smiled. Then, if there are any high-grade spirit stones, I'll keep them and wait for Lord Lin Ji to purchase them. How about it? And all right. After leaving the Imperial Trading Company, he went straight to the Spirit Medicine Department. It was time to give the Pear Blossom Sword to Chu Yao. At night, the Spirit Medicine Department was brightly lit. Purple lanterns flickered with a bewitching luster. Lin Muyu hugged the Pear Blossom Sword wrapped in a black cloth. The Pear Blossom Sword was a mysterious rank treasure sword. At night it would emit a luster. Normally, this kind of treasured weapon could be recognized at a glance. Therefore it was wrapped in a white cloth. The alchemists had finished their tasks for the day and were already resting. Chu Yao's room was in the southern courtyard of the medicine refining hall. There were a total of 4 rooms and 4 alchemists lived there. However, only Chu Yao was a girl. Even so, nothing bad would happen. After all, there were guards outside every courtyard. The Spirit Medicine Department was the cradle of high-grade alchemists in the imperial capital. For the Empire, the Spirit Medicine Department was a treasure. They would definitely be willing to spend money to protect these unarmed alchemists. Within the courtyard, there was a crabapple tree that emitted a faint fragrance. Chu Yao stood at the foot of the tree, looking like a proud jade tree made of ice and snow. Strands of true energy flowed around her, and an iron sword floated in the air beside her, slowly rotating. Dong dong dong, Lin Muyu knocked on the door and said with a smile, Sister Chu Yao? Chu Yao suddenly opened her eyes. Her heart was in a mess. Naturally, the ability to use her heart to control the sword disappeared. The iron sword fell on the stone floor with a dang sound. She turned around and opened the door. She said with a smile, Why are you so late? Lin Muyu mysteriously patted the cloth in her hands and said, I brought you a gift. What? See for yourself. Chu Yao took the gift and opened the cloth layer by layer. When the transparent and resplendent pear blossom sword came into view, her delicate body suddenly trembled. Her eyes revealed a misty luster. This is? Chapter 102. This sword was forged from 1,000-year iron and 8,000-year spirit stones. Because it is of the ice attribute and has a unique design, I named it Pear Blossom Sword. Lin Muyu said with a smile. I even reforged Zhao Jin's Pear Blossom Spear. Its design is very similar to this sword, so the sword and the spear should be a set. Chu Yao blushed and said happily, this Pear Blossom sword is really a set with the Pear Blossom Spear? Of course, what do you think? If I didn't have the Prairie Fire Sword, I really wouldn't bear to give this Pear Blossom sword to you, he said half-jokingly. Chu Yao caressed the sword lovingly and said, what grade is this Pear Blossom sword? 4th level Mystic grade. Ah. Chu Yao was shocked. 4th level Mystic grade? I heard that. Mystic grade weapons are very expensive, at least 10,000 Jinine coins? As she said this, she handed the Pear Blossom sword back and said, such a precious sword, why don't you sell it? It's too much of a waste for me to use, I'll just use a spirit grade weapon. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh inwardly and said, Sister Chu Yao, what's so precious about a mere 4th level Mystic grade Pear Blossom sword? As long as I want it, I can forge countless Pear Blossom swords. Keep it, this sword was specially designed for you, how can you not want it? Then alright. Chu Yao gripped the hilt tightly, feeling her heart beating wildly. She said again, I'm about to comprehend the heart of the sword. Really? Yes. Chu Yao nodded seriously and then closed her eyes. Streams of blade-like true energy flowed on the surface of her body. This was indeed the initial form of the heart of the sword. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Sister Chu Yao's talent is indeed not bad. When you truly comprehend the heart of the sword, you can go and fuse with the beast soul inside the Pear Blossom sword. When you complete this step, I'll teach you the 4-elemental sword kinesis. Yes, alright. Without staying for too long, Lin Muyu left the spirit medicine division. At this time she suddenly felt a strong sense of weakness. Finally, after forging so many weapons in one night, her physical strength and combat chi were overdrawn. Without thinking too much about it, she lay down on the stone bed and fell into a deep sleep. He was in a daze for an unknown period of time before he slowly woke up. Gigi, as far as the eye could see, a gray rat was looking up at Lin Muyu from the corner of the wall. Surprisingly, it wasn't afraid of people. Lin Muyu, who had just woken up, happened to be at its peak. The cultivation of the spirit pulse technique had caused the power of his soul to surge endlessly. At that moment, it was as if his spiritual sense was about to condense into a focal point. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be stunned. He then guided his spiritual sense to gather together and used it to attack the mouse in the corner like a sharp knife. Gee! The mouse's cry came to an abrupt halt. Its pupils rapidly enlarged, and it unexpectedly stopped there motionlessly. Lin Muyu was a little surprised. He turned over and got off the bed. He walked in front of the mouse and lowered his head to look at it. He found that the mouse seemed to be in a daze. It actually didn't move at all. After a full 10 seconds, it finally made a GG sound again. Then, it turned around and went back into the mouse hole behind it. What's going on? Lin Muyu muttered to himself. His mind recalled everything that had just happened. The spirit pulse technique actually gathered his spiritual sense to attack others. Could it be that this was the method of using mental strength to attack? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but become excited. He hurriedly washed up and went to the holy temple. He had to find someone to practice it on. Lord Linji. Zhang Wei walked over with a saber in his hand. He said with a smile, You woke up so early. Yes, Lord Zhang Wei. Lin Muyu's heart moved. He smiled and said, Lord Zhang Wei, I want to ask you for a favor. Stand here and don't move. Okay. Zhang Wei stood in front of him and said with a smile, I don't know what you want to do. Lin Muyu did not say anything. Her expression was extremely solemn. Suddenly, she activated the spirit pulse technique and focused her spiritual perception on one point, attacking Zhang Wei's brain. It was also at this moment that Zhang Wei's entire body seemed to have been petrified. However, this process was extremely short, not even half a second. He was stunned for a moment and asked, What happened? What did you feel just now? Lin Muyu asked. Zhang Wei was stunned. He scratched his head and said, I just felt that my mind suddenly went blank. I don't know what happened. Lord Linji, what did you do to me just now? No, nothing. Lin Muyu laughed. He was thinking that the spirit pulse technique's mental attack would be much less effective against people with a stronger soul. Zhang Wei's soul was obviously much stronger than the mouse's, so it could only attack him for less than half a second. It seemed that there was still a long way to go before the spirit pulse technique could be used in actual combat. Early in the morning, Guyang took the scroll and started to announce the pairs for the morning training. But after he finished, he didn't call out Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei's names. Zhang Wei couldn't help but ask, Deacon Guyang, did you forget about me and Lord Linji? Guyang laughed. No, although this old man is old, I still won't forget the two of you. Linji, Zhang Wei, the two of you will go out for a mission this morning. Lin Muyu was stunned. After entering the temple, other than the daily training, there weren't many missions. This was the first time. So she asked, what mission, Grandpa Guyang? Guyang stroked his beard and laughed. Simple. The two of you will bring 50 temple guards to the Ministry of War's military warehouse to collect the weapons, rations and salaries for the next 3 months. Yes. After exiting the training hall, there was already a group of guards waiting outside. The so-called temple guards were the soldiers who carried out the mission of guarding the temple. These soldiers didn't belong to the temple directly, but they lived in the temple all year round to serve as instructors and sparring partners. Currently, there were more than 200 temple guards in the temple, which was considered a military force. Sir, the carriage is ready. This is the Grand Deacon's approval. A guard walked up and handed Lei Hong's approval to Lin Muyu. It was as if he had tacitly agreed that Lin Muyu was the leader of the group and not Zhang Wei. However, Zhang Wei wasn't angry. He knew that he had acted rashly, and Lin Muyu was more suitable to carry out this mission. Let's go, lead the way. Yes. Leaping onto the horse, the group left the temple in a grandiose manner. Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei were both wearing the temple's battle robes, giving off a heroic aura. As the group walked along Tongtian Street, they attracted a lot of attention. The military warehouse was to the north of the imperial city. When the group from temple arrived, they discovered that it was filled with people. Other than the temple, there were also many soldiers waiting to distribute the rations. Outside of the military warehouse, there were people shouting and horses neighing. Rows of heavy cavalry galloped past, creating a chaotic scene. Lin Muyu frowned and said, "What do we do now?" "This subordinate will go and hand in the document." A temple guard said. Good. Outside the military warehouse was a temporary camp. The temple guard rode his horse away, and not long after he entered the camp, he returned with a face full of anger and shame, and the document in his hand was still tightly gripped. "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu asked. The temple guard said angrily, "That bastard military officer is purposely making things difficult for us. He wants us to queue up a little longer, and the temple's army needs to wait for the God Might Battalion to finish distributing the rations." On what basis? Zhang Wei's temper flared up, and he said angrily, "The God Might Battalion is the private army of the Divine Marquis residents. They should not be receiving rations from the imperial capital, and they actually arranged for them to be in front of the temple. Don't the Ministry of War know that there are no restrictions on the temple's rations?" The guard said in a low voice, "Master Zhang Wei, it must be because the temple did not give them any benefits, that's why they are purposely making things difficult for us." Preposterous. Zhang Wei raised his blade and charged into the military warehouse. Lin Muyu did not even have time to stop him and hurriedly said, "Men, follow me." Yes. He hurriedly led dozens of temple guards and chased after Zhang Wei, but when Lin Muyu arrived at the front of the tent, he heard a bang, and immediately saw a person flying out from the tent, spitting out blood, and his chest was covered in flames. It was obviously caused by Zhang Wei's fiery soul fist. Voila! Zhang Wei quickly stepped out of the tent, his fists were surrounded by the power of his martial spirit, and he said in a low voice, "You dog official, if we don't give you gold, you dare to make things difficult for the temple?" The military officer looked like a rat and hurriedly shouted, "Murder, murder, the temple's instructor is going to commit murder in broad daylight. You still dare to howl?" Zhang Wei raised his fist and was about to hit him, but Lin Muyu hurriedly got off the horse and blocked Zhang Wei's fist and said, "Calm down, Zhang Wei. This despicable person, I will teach him a lesson today." Zhang Wei's explosive temper was completely out of control, and he angrily scolded, "Why does the Divine Might Battalion have to collect their military supplies before the temple? It is obvious that we came first. What is the Divine Might Battalion? What right do they have to be so arrogant?" At this time a cold voice suddenly came from the right. "Yo, the temple's gold star instructor Zhang Wei, your fists are indeed explosive, but your temper is even more explosive. You really don't know your place." Lin Muyu looked over, and when he saw a group of soldiers from the God Might Battalion marching over aggressively under the leadership of a general, he already knew that things were not looking good. Walking forward quickly, Lin Muyu cupped his fists and said, "Sir, Temple's Lin Ji apologizes to you here." Lin Ji? The person who came was a middle-aged military officer around the age of 30, his eyes were reserved and his steps were steady. He was obviously an expert. The corner of his mouth curled up and he said, You are the Lin Ji who crippled Zhao Kuang's arm? How awe-inspiring. Lin Muyu replied coldly, Sir, Zhang Wei did not mean to offend you. Since the Divine Might Battalion wants to collect their supplies first, then you guys can go first. The man suddenly laughed out loud. You put it so nicely. You beat up the military officer. Are you trying to walk away? Then what do you want? Lin Muyu's gaze was cold. He suddenly pulled out the prairie fire sword and said indifferently, Temple has fewer people, but that does not mean that they are afraid of you. The 1,000-man commander of the Divine Might Battalion was not someone who was easy to deal with. He pulled out the sword by his waist and bellowed, Men, go and seize the weapons of the Temple's army. Chapter 103. Dang dang dang. The group of steel guards from the God Prestige Battalion pulled out their swords and sabers. Each of them had a fierce look on their faces. Many of them had already released their martial spirits. The glow of their beast martial spirits and tool martial spirits merged together, as their Jin Qi penetrated through their swords, revealing their sharpness. Zhang Wei unsheathed the sword on his waist, and his fire bear martial spirit roared, causing his cloak to flutter. Waves of wind swept out in all directions. This Gold Star instructor from the temple had an arrogant look on his face, and he growled at the 1,000-man commander of the God Might Battalion, Sikong Nan, don't think that you can do whatever you want just because the Divine Marquis thinks highly of you. Don't forget, the temple has special permission from His Majesty to have priority in obtaining military equipment. Sikong Nan laughed out loud. The shadow of a purple long sword appeared on the blade of his sword. It was his martial soul. It was surging with power, and the blade was surrounded by a thick layer of battle energy. Lin Muyu remained silent. She looked at Sikong Nan and the increasing number of soldiers from the Divine Might Battalion. Sikong Nan was the strongest in this group. He was at the first sky of the Heaven Realm. The rest were 2/3 sky of the Earth Realm Battle Saints. Behind them were dozens of second sky of the Earth Realm Battle Venerables. Although this was only the tip of the iceberg of the Divine Marquis Zheng Yifun's strength, it was still enough to make people speechless. More than half of the soldiers had martial souls, and dozens of them had reached the Earth Realm. It was no wonder that the 5,000 soldiers from the Divine Might Battalion could withstand the 30,000 soldiers of the Imperial Army. Seize their weapons for me. Sikong Nan let out a fierce roar, and the Do Chi on his blade became more and more intense. Dang. At the moment when the swords were drawn, Lin Muyu suddenly pulled out the burning prairie sword. Infusing her battle energy, the fire dragon sword spirit let out a low roar. The flames turned into a wave of heat that blew out in all directions. In an instant, the Divine Might Battalion soldiers at the front were forced to take a few steps back. They couldn't even withstand the impact of Lin Muyu's aura. We are from the Divine Temple. Whoever dares to seize our weapons, come and try. If you want to seize the weapons of the Divine Temple, you will have to step over my dead body first. Lin Muyu's gaze was cold. The indigo martial spirit gourd emerged from her body and formed a protective barrier around the sacred hall battle robe. Sikong Nan sneered, Lin Ji, you still dare to show your measly 10th grade martial spirit? Aren't you afraid that others will laugh their heads off? Men, disarm them by force. A group of soldiers from the Divine Might Battalion rushed over, each of them wielding a long sword in their hands. Their martial souls howled, and in the next moment, more than 10 beams of sword chi turned into rays of light as they shot towards Lin Fan. Courting death. Zhang Wei roared, and his sword swept out with the flame force of the fire bear martial soul. Zhang Wei, don't kill them. Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice, and at the same time she raised her Do Chi to strengthen the protective barrier. In the next moment, countless beams of sword chi shot out from the gourd's walls. Streaks of sword chi flew around like bullets, and at the same time Sikong Nan's long sword had already struck out like a poisonous snake. With a ping sound, it pierced a hole in the black tortoise shell. Do Chi continuously surged towards the protective barrier, and Lin Muyu almost instantly repaired the black tortoise shell. At the same time she leaped up, raised the burning prairie sword and slashed towards Sikong Nan's neck. Umph. Sikong Nan snorted coldly, and his long sword blocked the burning prairie sword's attack. However, at this moment, Lin Muyu suddenly released her hand, and the burning prairie sword pierced towards Sikong Nan from a strange angle. This move was too fast and accurate, and Sikong Nan was caught off guard. Peng! The protective barrier formed by Do Chi suddenly collapsed, and Sikong Nan retreated a few steps. A trace of surprise flashed across his eyes, but his reaction speed was extremely fast. The edge of his sword abruptly collided upwards, and with a ding sound the burning prairie sword was knocked away. Sikong Nan's body flashed, and the long sword carried a blood-red glow as it slashed towards the area between Lin Muyu's neck. This was a killing blow. This sword was astonishingly fast, but Lin Muyu's speed was even faster. A starlight flashed under her feet, and the falling star steps was activated in an instant. At the same time that Sikong Nan's sword missed, he saw Lin Muyu raise her arm and punch into the distance. Peng! The demonic sonic fist, which carried the glow of Do Chi, pierced through the crowd, and forced 3 soldiers of the God Might Battalion to retreat. However, Lin Muyu clearly didn't want to kill anyone here, so she didn't directly use the demonic sonic fist to attack their vitals. Otherwise, none of them would have been able to dodge it. The demonic sonic fist wrapped around her right fist, and with a flick of her left hand, the burning prairie sword in the air transformed into a beam of fiery light and shot towards Sikong Nan. Amidst the deafening sound of the sword clashing, Sikong Nan retreated several steps. At this moment, his heart was extremely shaken and he thought to himself, what kind of divine being is this kid? He can actually do 2 things at the same time. The fiery spiral of Do Chi is so domineering that it actually caused my arms to go numb. What a freak. On the side, Zhang Wei's sword skills were unrestrained. In addition to the attacks of Lin Muyu and the Templar Knights, close to 100 soldiers of the God Might Battalion had been injured, and more than 20 Templar Knights had been injured. The green brick floor of the quartermaster's quarters was already stained with blood. The crowd was getting more and more ferocious. Just when it looked like someone was about to die, a thunderous roar suddenly came from outside. All of you stop. Wah! A beam of golden light shot out, carrying with it a biting cold chi. It was the God-binding chains. Not good. Sikong Nan hurriedly turned around, but the God-binding chains were already in front of him. He hurriedly raised his long sword horizontally to block, but was forced to retreat a few steps. Blood had already spilled out from the corner of his mouth, but he did not get angry. Instead, his expression became respectful and he shouted loudly, all of you stop. Lin Muyu also signaled for the people of the Templar Knights to stop. Zhang Wei revealed a resentful expression. He had not fought enough. At this moment, Qin Lei galloped over on his horse. He carried the thunder-split blade, and behind him was a group of Imperial guards. His face was ashen as he dismounted from his horse. He looked at the people of the God Might Battalion and the Templar Knights and said coldly, what exactly is going on? Sikong Nan cupped his fists and said respectfully, Commander Qin, the Golden Star instructor of the Templar Knights, Zhang Wei, acted recklessly in the quartermaster's quarters, and actually injured the quartermaster. I went up to reason things out, but he actually wanted to beat me up as well. Qin Lei looked at him with a fierce gaze and said, Zhang Wei is only at the 3rd level of the Earth realm. Would he dare to beat you who is at the Heaven realm? He really dared to beat me up, Lin Muyu secretly thought, then cupped his fists and said, Commander Qin Lei, the quartermaster was negligent first, and actually made the people of the Templar Knights wait for a long time without giving us any weapons. That's why Master Zhang Wei's words and actions were so extreme, and made such an unwise move. As for General Sikong Nan of the God Might Battalion, he gave the order to seize the weapons of the soldiers of the Templar Knights. Is that so? Qin Lei raised his eyebrows, looked at Sikong Nan and said, General Sikong Nan is so impressive, to even dare to seize the weapons of the Templar Knights. It seems that you have already forgotten the words of the founding emperor, no one can seize the weapons of the people of the Templar Knights. As he said that, Qin Lei laughed coldly and said, Sikong Nan, if I were to report this matter to His Majesty, what do you think will happen to you? Sikong Nan's face instantly turned pale, and he hurriedly knelt down on one knee and said, Commander Qin, I did not do anything like seizing weapons. I hope that Master will investigate this clearly. This is just a misunderstanding. Furthermore, how would the God Might Battalion dare to offend the Templar Knights? That's good. Qin Lei carried the thunder-splitting blade, and walked step by step to the front of the quartermaster. He raised his hand, and an invisible force lifted the quartermaster up. His face was pale and he hurriedly begged for mercy, Commander Qin Lei, I won't dare to do it again, I won't dare to do it again. Qin Lei smiled indifferently, what is there that a lowly person like you wouldn't dare to do? Men, bring him down and send him to the Fire Sparrow Division to interrogate this bastard. The quartermaster will be replaced. Remember, no one is allowed to neglect the people of the Templar Knights, or else they will be the enemy of the Great Qin clan. Everyone was solemn and they saluted one after another. Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei checked the injuries of the Templar Knights, they were all light injuries. The people of the God Might Battalion also had a sense of propriety, and did not use any powerful weapons like crossbows, or else it would not be as simple as light injuries. You have recently offended the Divine Marquis Palace, you must be careful. Qin Lei carried the thunder-splitting blade and stood next to Lin Muyu. And thank you big brother Qin Lei this time. Lin Muyu smiled slightly, but if the people of the Divine Marquis Palace want to touch me, I'm afraid I won't be able to hide, I can only take it one step at a time. Oh right, my brother Qin Yan has also entered the Templar to train, have you seen him? Ha, I've seen him, Qin Yan's cultivation is not bad, and he is also not bad. Haha, that kid is obsessed with martial arts but neglects to socialize, you have to teach him more. Also, the God Might Battalion has been in the capital for too long, you should avoid them if you can. This group of people rely on the support of the Divine Marquis to look down on everyone, if not for the fact that my father is Prince Jining, I'm afraid there would have been a battle today. And? Not long after, a batch of weapons and rations were transported out from the quartermaster's warehouse, and loaded onto the carriage, while Qin Lei escorted the people of the Templar Knights back to the Templar Palace. Late at night, Lin Muyu, Zhang Wei and the rest participated in the Templars' weekly night training, all the way until the evening. Dong dong dong, intense knocking sounds came from outside as if very anxious. Who is it? A Templar guard walked forward, and when he opened the door, he saw a cluster of torches and the intense sound of horse hooves. Under the light of the torches, a 1,000-man commander rushed in with a long sword in hand, opened his palm and turned his fighting aura into a vast palm energy, directly knocking the Templar guard unconscious. He raised a scroll in his hand and shouted, Sikong Nan is under orders to capture the Imperial Court's serious criminal Lin Muyu. Who is it? Zhang Wei walked out of the inner hall with a long sword in hand, followed by a few instructors and a group of Templar guards. Sikong Nan, what are you doing? When he saw Sikong Nan's face under the torches, Zhang Wei could not restrain his anger. Sikong Nan shook the scroll in his hand and said, The God Might Battalion investigated openly and secretly, and confirmed that the Golden Star sparring master Lin Ji is the Lin Muyu who killed Silver Fur City guard. The evidence is irrefutable and we are here to arrest him. You dare. Zhang Wei growled, his martial soul already emerging from his body. Man. Sikong Nan's face was ashen and he said indifferently, Archers. Behind him, hundreds of archers drew their bows in unison, the sharp arrowheads glinting coldly under the light of the torches. Chapter 104. Heavy Shields. Zhang Wei bellowed. Immediately, dozens of temple guards raised their heavy shields in front of them. Sikong Nan laughed coldly, Fire. Xiu xiu xiu. Rays of cold light flew in the hall and landed on the shields. At the same time, a few temple guards were hit by the arrows and fell to the ground. Fresh blood instantly flowed on the stone floor. Zhang Wei flew to the front of the shield formation and with a shout, he threw his long blade. Pooh! 2 archers were instantly pierced through and nailed to the door of the temple guards. Zhang Wei. Sikong Nan bellowed and flew over with his sword. Battle chi shone on his armor. With a slight twist of his arm he slashed out several times. Zhang Wei on the other hand, was almost empty-handed. He could only use the fiery soul fist to block the blade. After one round, his arms were already covered in wounds. After all, the difference in strength was too great. One was at the Earth Realm and the other was at the Heaven Realm. Pooh! The archers of the God Might Battalion were too accurate. Zhang Wei's arm was hit by an arrow in the blink of an eye, adding another injury to his injury. He was struck by Sikong Nan's sword and fell back onto the shield wall. It was a tragic sight. At this time, a figure flew over from the inner hall. An indigo light illuminated the surroundings. In a rage, Lin Muyu threw her demon noise blade to save Zhang Wei. The demon noise blade screeched in the night sky and slashed towards Sikong Nan's neck. This was a fatal blow. As a Heaven Realm superhuman, Sikong Nan's senses were extraordinary. Before the demonic sound saber even arrived, he already sensed the fierce glare. He quickly lowered his head, and with a clang, a large piece of the iron helmet on his head was cut off. Lin Muyu sprinted over, using falling star steps to stand in front of the temple guards. She opened her palm and condensed the walls of a gourd, deflecting the incoming arrows with a dang 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 sound. At the same time she raised her right palm lightly, lightning crackling between her 5 fingers, while the burning prairie sword spun rapidly 2 meters away from her, emitting intense flames. Go! The thunder force sent the attack of the fire sword straight forward. Sikong Nan knew how powerful it was and hurriedly retreated. His battle boots stepped on the limestone floor and spun rapidly, almost dodging the attack of the spiraling break. The burning prairie sword flew past his chest armor, and the biting cold chi actually shattered the armor on his chest. With a ping sound, it exploded into the group of archers behind him. In an instant, 3 people had already died. You. Sikong Nan maintained his dodging posture, both his hands leaning back against the ground. His face was ashen. Lin Muyu, you audacious bastard. Men charge. The sound of galloping horses could be heard from outside. In the next moment, over 100 Divine Might Battalion cavalrymen had already charged into the Holy Palace. Each of them was wielding a 3-meter-long spear, and many of them even had the power of their martial souls on their spears. Seeing this, Zhang Wei hurriedly said, Lord Lin Ji, be careful. The Divine Might Battalion's black armored cavalry is known as the world's #1 cavalryman. Lin Muyu also knew the pros and cons, but he had no other choice. If he dodged, then the group of Holy Palace guards and instructors behind him would become the targets of the Divine Might Battalion's slaughter. Furthermore, Sikong Nan had brought the so-called evidence here, so he must have made thorough preparations. If the Holy Palace guards and instructors were killed, they would die in vain. They would definitely be accused of shielding a serious criminal. Buzz buzz buzz. The walls of the gourd swayed slowly around him, and the demonic noise blade continued to spin rapidly in the air. Lin Muyu grabbed the burning prairie sword that was spinning back towards him, and gripped it with both hands as he charged forward. In front of him, dozens of cavalrymen charged forward. The moment they got close, they all stabbed their spears into the walls of the gourd. The weight of the several hundred kilograms of war horses and cavalrymen, coupled with their high speed, brought about a powerful impact. Bam bam bam. The outer layer of the mystic tortoise shell was quickly broken through. Lin Muyu sidestepped and stabbed the burning prairie sword into the body of one of the cavalrymen. With a turn of his body, his do chi surged, and he slashed another cavalryman off his horse. However, his back was still pierced by another spear. What was even more ridiculous was that one of the cavalrymen and his horse directly rammed into Lin Muyu. Bam! The dull impact caused Lin Muyu to fall back to the ground. He raised his head, and another 2 cold lights pierced towards him. The protective do chi around his body instantly collapsed, and he had no time to react. He quickly raised his hand and shouted, Entanglement of roots. Green vines rose from the green stone floor and wrapped around the hooves of the cavalrymen, forcing them to trample on each other. However, it was of no use. Endless cavalrymen continued to charge in from the outside. We are here to capture the serious criminal Lin Muyu. You may kill him on the spot. Sikong Nan shouted from the back of the crowd. It seemed like he also knew that it was almost impossible to capture Lin Muyu alive. He knew that he was no match for them, but he had no choice but to fight. Lin Muyu forcefully activated his do chi and steeled his heart. Suddenly, he bent his body slightly, and a blood-red energy surged around his right fist. Right at the moment the dozen cavalrymen of the God Might Battalion charged towards him, he suddenly punched out. Chaos of all lives. Pung! The sounds of explosions did not stop. The dozen cavalrymen were either dead or heavily injured. Even the war horses were whining and falling to the ground. No. It can't be. Zhang Wei and the group of instructors watched with their mouths agape. They all knew how strong the God Might Battalion's cavalrymen were. To think that Lin Muyu was able to kill so many cavalrymen with a single strike. This was a realm that only a Saint Realm cultivator could reach. At this point Lin Muyu was already riddled with wounds. His left arm was pierced by 2 arrows, and his shoulder was riddled with 7 to 8 spear wounds. These attacks had pierced through his skin and muscles, but did not reach his bones. After all, the dragon forging remnant scroll had already forged his bones to be as indestructible as the bones of a dragon. He was no longer as weak as before. But right at this moment, an invisible force suddenly descended, causing Lin Muyu to be unable to move. How dare you, criminal? Do you still want to resist? A cold voice could be heard. Lin Muyu's body was covered in blood as he raised his head to look outside. Under the light of the fire, a skinny figure slowly walked over on the green stone floor. Every step he took seemed to add a layer of restraint to his aura, causing Lin Muyu to feel as if she was trapped in a net of thousands of threads, unable to move. Poo-pew! Another 2 arrows pierced into his chest, causing him to feel an intense pain. Lin Muyu wanted to resist, but he was completely unable to do so. It's the Divine Overlord. The Divine Overlord is here. The group of instructors was dumbfounded. Some of them even knelt on the ground and greeted respectfully. "Greetings, Divine Overlord." Zheng Yifan was the most famous person in the Imperial Army. In the eyes of the soldiers, he was like a god, and his status was even higher than that of the emperor. Zhang Wei clenched his fists and rushed forward despite his injuries. He stood in front of Lin Muyu and looked at Zheng Yifan with a burning gaze. "Divine Overlord, let's talk this out. Lord Lin Ji is definitely not a criminal." Zheng Yifan smiled faintly. "Zhang Wei, how do you know he's not a criminal?" This question stumped Zhang Wei, causing him to freeze on the spot. "Guards." Zheng Yifan's voice was extremely calm. "Put the beast-binding shackles on Lin Muyu." A few soldiers from the Divine Might Battalion walked forward and used a strange-looking chain to bind Lin Muyu's arms and legs, making it even more impossible for her to move. "Take her away." Zheng Yifan flicked his sleeves and was about to leave. But right at this moment, another powerful aura spread out. Lei Hong slowly walked out from the inner hall, his voice loud and clear. "Brother Zheng, how long has it been since we last met? You came to the sacred hall and left without even saying a word?" Zheng Yifan turned around and smiled. "Brother Lei Hong, I'm actually not here for anything important. I'm just here to capture a kid who's been on the run. Since he's from the Divine Palace, I'll take it as greeting you." "Brother Zheng, are you saying that this Lin Ji is Lin Muyu?" Lei Hong smiled. "Even if he is, it's not that big of a deal. It's just that Lin Muyu is someone entrusted to the Divine Palace by Princess Shi of the Seven Seas Tang sect. He has the Tang sect's iron token, so I'm afraid you won't be able to take him away today." "Is that so?" Zheng Yifan looked at Raham and didn't make any movements. However, the bluestone bricks under his feet exploded one after another. A monstrous and invisible aura spread out in the surroundings and headed straight for Raham. Bang! An invisible wave of air exploded in front of Lei Hong. Lei Hong's beard swayed slightly. He put his hands behind his back and looked at Zheng Yifan with a smile. His own aura also spread out rapidly. The two Sacred Realm experts were fighting with their domains. Everyone was dumbfounded. The group of instructors was dumbfounded. They knew that Divine Marquis Zheng Yifan was well versed in the art of war and was the Empire's god of war. But they didn't know that Zheng Yifan was so strong that he could even compete with the Lord of the Divine Palace, Lei Hong. "Disperse!" Raham suddenly shouted. Zhang Wei immediately seized the opportunity to grab Lin Muyu's rope and dragged him into the inner hall. Meanwhile, the soldiers of the Divine Might Battalion behind Zheng Yifan also dispersed. No one wanted to be caught in the crossfire. Pa pa pa. Under the pressure of the domains, the walls around the hall began to crack and peel off. The invisible aura collided and wrestled with each other in the air. It was as if thousands of soldiers and horses were charging at each other. The water in the pond jumped up and the laws of space in the hall were distorted by the confrontation between the two experts. Bang! There was a loud noise and the airflow rushed to the surroundings. Zheng Yifan's body trembled slightly. He said with a livid face, "Brother Lei Hong's cultivation has improved again?" Lei Hong's face turned even paler. He said indifferently, "Brother Zheng really hid his strength well." At this moment an unusual noise came from outside. A man in a white robe rushed in with a long saber in his hand. His face was full of anxiety. It was none other than Feng Jixing, Grand Deacon. When he saw Lei Hong's complexion, he felt a chill in his heart. He had never seen Lei Hong so weak before. Zheng Yifan said coldly, "Commander Feng Jixing, what business do you have here?" Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, "Divine Marquis, the letter from Yu from Silver Fir City and the conclusive evidence collected by Chu Huaying of the Imperial Guard showed that Hua Tian's death was self-inflicted. His Majesty has already pardoned Lin Muyu. This is the pardon written by His Majesty himself." Zheng Yifan didn't even look at it. He turned around and said, "General Feng is really capable." Chapter 105. Watching as Zheng Yifan led the God Might Battalion soldiers away, Feng Jixing heaved a sigh of relief and turned to ask, "Grand Deacon, are you all right?" Lei Hong's complexion was extremely pale. He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and the gray hair on his head instantly turned even whiter. "Grand Deacon." Zhang Wei and the others rushed over. Lin Muyu also broke free from the beast-binding chains and held onto Lei Hong's arm. "Grandpa Lei Hong, are you all right?" Lei Hong's expression was gloomy. "Everyone thinks that the Empire's two sanctuary masters are me and Chu Chu, I'm afraid. The Empire's most powerful sanctuary master is already Zheng Yifan." Feng Jixing asked, "Is Zheng Yifan really that strong?" "Yes." Lei Hong nodded and then smiled at Lin Muyu. Since His Majesty has pardoned you and Chu Yao, then you can finally use your real identity to establish yourself in the divine sanctum and the imperial capital. Lin Muyu nodded, yes. Thank you Grandpa Lei Hong and thank you Big Brother Feng. Feng Jixing continued to nod. I'm afraid this may not be a good thing. How about I go see His Majesty and ask His Majesty to bestow you the identity of a royal guard? This way the divine marquis residents will have to think twice before doing anything to you. What do you think? Can I? Lin Muyu did not refuse. Lei Hong shook his head. No, you as our divine sanctum's rising star, how can we just hand him over to the royal guards? No, I won't agree no matter what. Feng Jixing could not help but smile. Grand Deacon is really stubborn. Not long after, a group of medical officers from the elixir department came to treat the divine sanctum's injured people, and in the end, Chu Yao also came. When she saw the heavily injured Lin Muyu, her eyes turned red. What happened? She asked as she helped Lin Muyu clean her wounds. Lin Muyu sat on the stone block of the sacred hall. She grimaced in pain and said with a smile, Sister Chu Yao, we don't have to hide anymore. His Majesty has pardoned our crimes. Oh really? Chu Yao revealed a cheerful smile, but she was a little unhappy as she said, You're always fighting and killing. Look at yourself, how many scars are there on your body? Promise me that you won't fight so much in the future, okay? And as long as people don't offend me, I won't offend them. All right. On the side, Zhang Wei, who was being treated by another elixir department medical officer, looked at the two of them with a dubious expression. He said with a smile, Sire Lin Muyu is really lucky with women. He actually has such a beautiful medical officer treating his wounds, and they look so compatible. Chu Yao's pretty face immediately flushed red. She glared at Zhang Wei and said, You're still so arrogant after such a serious injury. I think there's no need to apply medicine. Zhang Wei repeatedly begged for mercy. Please don't. If I don't apply medicine, my wounds will probably become inflamed and rot. I'll teach you to keep your mouth shut. Chu Yao said with a smile. Zhang Wei was immediately enchanted. He said, Sire Lin Muyu, if I had such a good sister, I would definitely take her as my wife. How could I let someone else have such a beautiful sister? Chu Yao's face turned even redder. You're still talking too much. Lin Muyu sat at the side and looked at Chu Yao's bashful beauty. He was a little tempted, but he knew that he didn't belong to this world and might have to leave. If he couldn't take Chu Yao with him, then why bother messing with her heart? However, this silly boy probably didn't know that the beauty's heart was already messed up. They only rested for the night. Their injuries were too serious, so they could only lie down and cultivate the dragon forging bone remnant scroll and the spirit vein technique. Lying on the bed and looking at the starry sky above the secret room, Lin Muyu's eyes widened. The spiritual energy of the spirit vein technique rippled outwards. The spirit vein technique was indeed very magical. An attack that gathered spiritual energy could attack the enemy's soul, but it also required concentration. Thus, the moment Zheng Yifan stepped into the holy palace, Lin Muyu tried to attack him with the spirit vein technique. Unfortunately, it failed. Zheng Yifan's soul was stronger than his, and so was his domain. Using the spirit vein technique to fight against such an expert would require a higher cultivation. Moreover, today's battle allowed Lin Muyu to truly understand the power of the sacred region. A heavenly realm expert challenging a sacred region expert was no different from courting death. Once the opponent's domain was activated, a heavenly realm expert would be unable to move at all. There was no chance of winning. But how far away was the sacred region? No one knew. Ever since Lin Muyu stepped into the first tier of the heavenly realm, she had been stuck at level 60. Cultivation was not easy and there were bottlenecks everywhere. As a result, Feng Jixing, Qin Lei and the others were stuck at the first tier of the heavenly realm, unable to break through. Experts like these could be found everywhere. Lei Hong, Chu Chu and the others had also been stuck at the first tier of the sacred region for more than 10 years. Late at night, Zetian Palace. A beautiful palace maid was sitting gracefully on a white jade bed. Beside her was an exquisite drawing board. The celestial emperor, Qin Jin, was waving his brush and sketching a beautiful woman's expression and face on the white paper. Although Qin Jin was the great emperor, he was also known as the divine hand by the world. He was a master of calligraphy and paintings. Legend had it that the great emperor had once ordered his personal officials to sell his landscape paintings to the people, and they would always fetch a high price. However, the graceful woman on the drawing board seemed to be completely different from the palace maid in front of her. The beauty between her brows was not something this palace maid could compare to. This painting did not look like her at all. Instead, it had a bit of Qin Yin's charm. Creak! The door was gently pushed open and Qin Yin walked over to stand behind Qin Jin. She looked at the drawing board and suddenly burst into laughter. Imperial father is drawing Imperial mother again. Qin Jin was taken aback. He could not help but laugh. Xiaoyin, why aren't you sleeping? I couldn't sleep, so I came to see father. Hurry up and go to sleep. How can a girl stay up so late? Qin Jin waved his hand, indicating for the palace maid to leave. Qin Yin smiled. Father, do I really look like mother? Yes, you look almost exactly the same. Qin Jin looked out the window with some fascination and said, after she left, Imperial father's everything has been left to you. Come, let Imperial father comb your hair again. Once you're done you can go back to sleep. Yes. Qin Yin obediently sat in front of the bronze mirror. She took off the princess crown on her hair and let her jet black hair fall down. Qin Jin took the silver comb and looked at his daughter's appearance in the bronze mirror. He could not help but tremble. He said in a daze, it's been so many years. If only I could see her one more time. I'm willing to exchange the world for one more look at her. Qin Yin's eyes reddened. Father? Qin Jin slowly combed through his daughter's hair. His face was full of doting love as he said, my Xiaoyin has grown up. When you were very young, I always wondered how long father would be able to stay by your side. But Xiaoyin has grown up so quickly and is about to get married. There will be another person by Xiaoyin's side to dote on and love you in father's place. Tears welled up in Qin Yin's eyes. She closed her eyes and let the tears flow freely. Qin Jin's hands trembled slightly. He muttered to himself, time really passes too quickly. In the blink of an eye, you've grown up so much. I don't know why, father. Father always feels that I haven't seen enough of you before you've grown up and gotten married. Qin Yin's shoulders trembled slightly. Father, don't say any more. I won't get married. Qin Jin could not help but laugh. Don't be silly. Even if you're a princess, you still have to get married. Otherwise, how will you continue to pass on our Qin bloodline? Father is just a little emotional. Xiaoyin, who do you like the most among the younger generation of the family? Qin Yin was stunned. She wiped her tears and said, I'm still young and don't want to get married. Father, don't ask me. Xiaoyin won't marry anyone. You're saying silly things again. Qin Lei, Qin Yan and Jinan Wang's sons. If you like any one of them, father will bestow marriage. You're already 20 years old. When your mother was 20, she would have already married me and become my empress. I'm not getting married. Let's wait a few more years. Qin Yin's eyes were red. I don't like any of the people father mentioned. I want to accompany father for a few more years, okay? Silly Xiaoyin. Qin Jin sighed. At this time, a eunuch's voice came from outside. Your Majesty, Imperial Guard Commander Feng Jixing requests an audience. Let him in. Yes. Soon the door opened. Feng Jixing was travel-worn. He knelt down and cupped his fists. This general greets your Majesty. Qin Jin smiled. General Feng must have something important for you to request an audience so late at night, right? Feng Jixing nodded. Your Majesty, an hour ago, Divine Marquis led 3,000 Divine Might Battalion cavalry to attack the Sage Temple. What? Qin Jin's body trembled. How is that possible? The Divine Marquis residence and the Sage Temple are the pillars of the Empire. Why would they fight each other? What was the result, General Feng? Feng Jixing said, by the time I arrived, the battle had already stopped. Both sides suffered dozens of casualties, and the reason for the battle was that Divine Marquis wanted to kill Lin Muyu. Therefore, I beg your Majesty to allow Lin Muyu to join the Royal Forest Guard. Qin Jin frowned. What kind of person is this Lin Muyu? Why would General Feng recommend her like this? Feng Jixing raised his head and said, from what I know, Lin Muyu is a martial arts prodigy that only appears once in 1,000 years. Such a person should be used by the Empire and must not be killed by the deity overlord. I hope that your Majesty will allow Lin Muyu to join the Royal Forest Guards. The corners of Qin Yin's lips curled up. Father, will you allow it? Hearing his daughter's words, Qin Jin calmed down. Very well, I will write an edict immediately to allow Lin Muyu to become a member of the Royal Forest Guard. General Feng, thank you for your hard work. Thank you, your Majesty. As he spoke, Feng Jixing lifted his head to look at Qin Jin. He said in a low voice, Your Majesty, the Divine Marquis Residence's actions are getting more and more aggressive. They even dared to clash with the Sage Temple. Are we just going to tolerate them? I feel that if necessary, we can transfer the 100,000 soldiers guarding Cangnan province back to the capital. I am willing to do this personally. Qin Jin took a deep breath. Zheng Yifan is the pillar of the empire. Currently, more than half of the commanders in the various armies are former subordinates of Zheng Yifan. As long as he doesn't go overboard, let him be. After all, if the northern desert and the southern barbarians go to war, we still need Zheng Yifan to lead the army. Isn't that right, General Feng? But, Feng Jixing's eyebrows were tightly knitted together. There are no buts. General Feng, rest early. Come and get the edict tomorrow morning. Yes, Your Majesty. He turned and left the Zetian Hall. The starlight shone on Feng Jixing's pure white cloak. He pressed his hand on the hilt of his sword and looked up at the sky in silence. Then he walked alone on the stone path of the hall. Under the starlight, his lonely figure looked somewhat lonely. Chapter 106. The next day, Guyang and Lei Hong sat opposite each other in the tea pavilion of the Holy Temple. They held a cup of tea presented by Ling Nan and closed their eyes to savor the aroma of the tea. Lei Hong sat cross-legged on the opposite side, a faint dou qi enshrouding his body. The battle with Zheng Yifan had caused him serious injuries and he was still channeling his dou qi to heal himself. How is it? Guyang opened his eyes and asked. Lei Hong opened his eyes slowly and said, My internal injuries have basically healed. The medicine from the spiritual medicine department is very effective, but the hidden injuries in my meridians have not been completely healed. So, I miscalculated. The last time I fought with Zheng Yifan was more than 10 years ago. He was merely a first-level Heaven Realm martial artist back then. I didn't expect him to have cultivated into the holy domain in these 10 years. Moreover, Zheng Yifan's Ice Soul tactics has become even more powerful. Guyang smiled slightly. Don't worry. We were caught off guard last time. We'll be better prepared next time. I've already applied for 200 archers from the Imperial Army to be appointed as Holy Temple guards. Even if Zheng Yifan comes again, his Ice Soul tactics may not be able to withstand thousands of arrows, right? Yes, that's the only way. At this moment, a Holy Temple guard passed through the green vine-filled corridor and said respectfully, Great Deacon General Qin Lei, the commander of the Imperial Army from the Zetian Temple, requests an audience. Qin Lei? Lei Hong was startled and said, Invite him in. Yes. Not long after, Qin Lei, dressed in a white robe, entered the hall with a few Imperial guards. He cupped his fists and smiled. Junior Qin Lei greets Great Deacon Lei Hong. Lei Hong stood up and said with a smile, General Qin Lei has come to visit. I wonder what's the matter? It's about Lady Lin Muyu. Oh. Lei Hong squinted his eyes. What happened to you? Qin Lei touched the back of his head and smiled awkwardly. His Majesty has already spoken to allow Lin Muyu to join the Imperial Army as a member of the Holy Temple and become one of the 200 Imperial Guards. This is His Majesty's handwritten decree. What? Lei Hong was so angry that his beard flew up. He smashed the tea table beside him with one palm and glared, This is too much. Did His Majesty ask for my opinion? Ayu is the most outstanding talent among the younger generation of the temple. I have high hopes for him, so why should the royal army hand him over to them just because they want to? No, I, Lei Hong, will never allow you to become a member of the Imperial Guard. Qin Lei grinned and became even more embarrassed. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, Grand Deacon, please don't be angry. Actually, His Majesty has also considered that you are not willing to let you leave the Holy Temple, so... His Majesty has said that you cannot leave the Holy Temple and at the same time hold the position of a royal guard. Every month, he can enter the Zetian Palace to hold the position of a royal guard for half a month and continue to hold the position of a gold star sparring master in the Holy Temple for the remaining half a month. Really? Lei Hong glared at Qin Lei and said, Young Prince Qin Lei, don't lie to me. Qin Lei could not help but laugh. How would this junior dare to lie to Grand Deacon? His Majesty has already approved that after you becomes a royal guard, he can wear the badge of the Holy Temple in the Imperial Palace. Furthermore, you's official rank will belong to the Holy Temple and not the royal army. All the glory and achievements will belong to the Holy Temple. What does Grand Deacon think? That's more like it. Lei Hong then leisurely stroked his beard and said with a smile, Deacon Guyang, go call you over and instruct him on this matter. Then let him pack up and follow General Qin Lei to the Zetian Palace to report. However, he must return to the Holy Temple in half a month. He is a member of the Holy Temple and must take root in the Holy Temple. If he is not willing to return, this old man will not have the face to look for His Majesty to ask for him. Guiyang held back his laughter and cupped his fists. Yes, Grand Deacon. Qin Lei respectfully stood to the side. The morning sun shone upon the waterside pavilion. Lei Hong continued to drink his tea. Perhaps he was in a fit of anger, but he did not ask Qin Lei to sit down, nor did he look at the tea. However, Qin Lei was a junior, so he did not mind. He held the lightning split blade and respectfully waited on the side. Lei Hong and Chu Chu were known as the two founding fathers of the empire. His fiery temper had always been famous throughout the world. Lei Hong did not dare to pluck the hair from the tiger's butt. Not long after, Lin Muyu, dressed in the white robes of the Holy Temple, appeared in the waterside pavilion corridor. His steps were steady as he respectfully smiled and said something to Guiyang. As he walked closer, he naturally understood what was about to happen. Lei Hong looked at him with a burning gaze, saying, "Are you willing to join the Royal Guard?" Guiyang said from the side, "Once you join the Royal Guard, your identity will change. You will become a general under the Emperor. This is a supreme honor and you will directly obey the Emperor's orders. This also means, the Divine Marquis Residence and the Divine Might Battalion will not be able to do anything to you." Lin Muyu understood the good intentions of the two grandfathers. He cupped his fists and said, "Lin Muyu is willing to follow the arrangements." Good. Lei Hong squinted his eyes and smiled. Becoming a royal guard is the dream of every cultivator in the world. Imperial Guard Master Feng Jixing has personally recommended you to His Majesty. Do not disappoint Master Feng Jixing's painstaking efforts. However, Grandpa has to tell you that you will forever be a member of the Holy Temple. From the day you entered the Holy Temple, your soul has been branded by the Holy Temple. Therefore, no matter how high you fly, no matter how far you go, you will eventually return to the Holy Temple. Do you understand you? Lin Muyu's body trembled. Determination appeared in his eyes and he said, "Grandpa Lei Hong, don't worry. The Holy Temple is my home. I will return." Good. Pack up and go. Yes. Qin Lei lightly patted Lin Muyu's shoulder from the side, hugged him and affectionately said with a smile, "Good brother, we can work together in the future. It's really a good thing that the Imperial Forest Guard has such a peculiar expert with a gourd martial spirit like you." Lin Muyu. In the afternoon, after packing up everything, Guiyang gifted the warhorse that Lin Muyu rode the most to him. Therefore, Lin Muyu carried the prairie fire sword on his back and held the pear blossom spear wrapped in black cloth in his hand. He flipped onto the horse and followed Qin Lei and the others out of the Holy Temple. Lei Hong, Guiyang, Zhang Wei and the others saw him off at the entrance of the Holy Temple. Zhang Wei cupped his fists and said, "Master Lin Muyu, we will meet again." Lin Muyu also cupped his fists and said, "Master Zhang Wei, work hard." "I will." The so-called friendship between gentlemen was probably like this. Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei had never been to places like taverns, but there was a kind of brotherhood between them that they could entrust their lives to each other. This kind of friendship between men was something that women could not understand. After saying their goodbyes one by one, they passed through Tongtian Street and went straight to the Zetian Palace. When they crossed the Zetian Temple's moat, 3 consecutive dong 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 sounds of war drums could be heard. It seemed to be to welcome the new member Lin Muyu. Qin Lei carried the thunder split blade and walked slowly. Along the way, the royal guard on both sides successively knelt down on one knee and gave a military salute. The atmosphere was extremely solemn. In the Zetian Temple, Qin Lei was like a mighty general. No one could be compared to him. Not even the commander of the Imperial Guard, Feng Jixing. After all, the people of the mainland paid attention to bloodline. Qin Lei had the blood of the royal family while Feng Jixing was born as a commoner. Because you are a staff member of the Holy Temple, the ceremony for you to be conferred as a royal guard was personally hosted by His Majesty. Let's go, we will go to the side hall of the Zetian Temple. His Majesty is already waiting there. Yes, yes? Lin Muyu could not help but feel a little apprehensive. This was the second time he was meeting the Emperor Qinjin, right? However, he was also a little expectant. In his mind, the beautiful face of the little princess Qinin appeared. Would he be able to see Qinin this time? Although he had only met Qinin twice, this amiable, adorable and lively heir of the family seemed to have left a beautiful mark in his heart, one that he would never forget for the rest of his life. Dong dong dong, the war drum sounded again. Along the way of the side hall there were royal guards everywhere. There were a total of 7,000 royal guards in the imperial capital. Among them, 200 of the most outstanding ones were known as the royal guards. Those who could protect the emperor and the princess at close range were also royal guards. This was a special honor, an honor that normal royal guards could not hope to achieve. Although Lin Muyu came from another world and the world in his heart was much bigger than the people here, he was also much more unrestrained. However, at this moment, looking at the endless palace pavilions and buildings and the scene of guards in the forest, he was still shocked. This world seemed to be a deep quagmire that kept twisting and twisting, sucking him in and making him sink deep into it. Qin Lei walked at the front, the white cloak behind him swaying. There was a golden-purple flower embroidered on it. This was the symbol of the white-robed royal guards. The outstanding ones among the 200 royal guards were known as the white-robed royal guards. There were only a few of them in the entire empire. In the main hall of the side hall, the emperor, Qin Jin, sat on the dragon throne in an imposing manner. He looked at the group of generals and royal guards below him with a calm gaze. Lin Muyu had already seen Feng Jixing wherever he looked. Big brother Feng Jixing's expression was very serious. The moment their eyes met, he grinned, causing Lin Muyu's anxious heart to calm down a lot. He knew that it did not matter how deep the waters in this Zetian palace were, because there were two brothers here. Qin Lei walked forward, cupped his fists and said, "Your Majesty, I have brought Lin Muyu here." Qin Jin nodded, announced the imperial edict. The eunuch at the side walked forward, unfolded a golden scroll and said in a clear voice, "Lin Muyu, commoner, gold star sparring master of the divine temple, cultivation of the first level of the heaven state. Due to your meritorious service in protecting Her Highness Qin Yin in the dragon-seeking forest, you can be specially pardoned to join the royal guards and be bestowed with the title of third-class nobility. You will take up the position of sergeant in the royal guards and temporarily be listed as a member of the Tiger Guards. I hope that you will be able to serve the empire wholeheartedly in the future and be loyal to the Qin family." Qin Lei hinted with his gaze and said in a low voice, "Silly boy, hurry up and accept the imperial edict to express your gratitude." Lin Muyu was stunned. How would he know so much etiquette? He walked forward and received the imperial edict. Then he gave an empire's military salute to Qin Jin who was on the throne and said respectfully, "Lin Muyu swears to be loyal to the family and will never betray it." Logically speaking, after becoming a royal guard, one should have done 9 bows, but Lin Muyu did not do so. Instead, he bowed to the emperor in the manner of a soldier. Qin Jin could not help but feel a little displeased by this. He frowned and said, "Lin Muyu, why did you swear to be loyal to the family? Is it because of me?" Lin Muyu was stunned. Qin Jin's gaze became increasingly sharp, piercing through his soul like a sharp arrow. He said, "Tell me the truth. Don't lie. What is the reason for you swearing loyalty to the Qin family?" Lin Muyu raised his head to look at Qin Jin. Their gazes met and he did not back down. After a few seconds he said calmly, "I am willing to swear loyalty to the family for Her Highness Qin Yin." Chapter 107. When Lin Muyu said "for Qin Yin," the group of generals was stunned. Many of them were already sweating on behalf of this silly boy. After all, the current emperor was still Qin Jin. However, he actually said that he was only loyal to the family for the sake of the next successor. This inevitably angered the emperor. Even Feng Jixing furrowed his brows and thought to himself, "Damn, this silly boy is going to stir up a hornet's nest, he's so honest." However, what everyone didn't expect was that Qin Jin wasn't angry at all. Instead, he stood up and held onto the emperor's sword. He smiled and said, "Well said. I'll remember this. For the sake of Her Highness Qin Yin, you must never betray the family." "Yes, Your Majesty." "All right, go." "Yes." Qin Lei secretly wiped his sweat and smiled as he said, "Rascal, let's go. Follow me to the Imperial Army's camp." "All right." After leaving the side hall, the group went straight to the Imperial Army's camp. The camp was inside the palace. Everyone leapt onto their horses and galloped away. Not long after, a building made of green bricks and tiles appeared in front of them. The Imperial Army's camp was far more luxurious than the Imperial Army's camp. In fact, a part of the palace's building had been split off to serve as the camp. The status of the Imperial Army in the capital was evident from this. The central tent was set up in the central hall. Qin Lei leapt off his horse and led Lin Muyu into the hall. From afar, he saw a familiar face walking towards them. It was Chu Huayin. You finally joined the Imperial Army?" Chu Huayin laughed. Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed. "Brother Chu, we're working together now. It's just that after joining the Imperial Army, I'm afraid that I won't be able to visit Sister Chu Yao much more often. That won't happen. Why? He was puzzled. Chu Huayin smiled mysteriously and said, because you've just joined the Imperial Army. Qin Lei laughed and sat on the general's seat. He said, head of the army, get the name list. Very quickly, a person dressed in official robes took out a file and said, head of the Imperial Army, please instruct me. Qin Lei stood up and said, Lin Muyu, squad leader of the Imperial Guards. His Majesty personally conferred him the title of Tiger Guard. Since he has joined the Imperial Guards for less than 3 months, so he has been temporarily arranged to carry out missions in the inspection office. His military rank is Centurion, and he commands 100 Imperial Guards cavalry. Lin Muyu was stunned. He had no idea what Qin Lei was talking about. Chu Huayin smiled and patted his shoulder. Good lad, not bad. You managed to become a Centurion of the Imperial Army after entering Zetian Palace. When I first entered, I started from the rank of Corporal. Lin of Qin Lei, Lin Muyu Hoof, head of Lei. Chu Muyu smiled. Head. I see. Qin Lei held onto the hilt of his battle blade and said, there are a total of 204 people in the Imperial Guard, and they are divided into 3 types of positions. The first rank is the Dragon Guard, and there are a total of 70 people. They are dedicated to protecting His Majesty and Her Highness the Princess, but they must have been a member of the Imperial Guard for at least 3 years. The second rank is the Tiger Guard, and there are a total of 61 people. They are responsible for the safety and defense of the surroundings of Zetian Hall, and you are one of the Tiger Guards. Finally, the third is the Eagle Guard. They are responsible for patrolling the surroundings of the Imperial Army. You are a member of the Tiger Guard. Lastly, the third is the Eagle Guard. They are responsible for patrolling the surroundings of the Imperial Army and protecting the safety of the Imperial City. As for the inspection office, it's actually just an external department. It's responsible for patrolling the perimeter of the Zetian Hall and the defense of Tongtian Street every day. It's not a big deal, just maintaining public order. This is the only way to become a Dragon Guard. Look, Feng Jixing and I started out as Tiger Guards. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. He cupped his fists and said, yes, I understand. That's good. Qin Lei sat down again and looked at the files on the table. He then raised his head and said, Chu Huayin, bring you to report to the inspection office. Help him collect 3 sets of armor for the Imperial Army while you are at it. Yes, General. Chu Huayin bowed respectfully. No matter how good his relationship with Qin Lei was, he always had to be respectful in the military camp. This was the rule. The military officer sent over 3 sets of armor. They were all the attire of the Imperial Army. However, Lin Muyu had special permission. Thus, he could only wear the Holy Temple's battle robe in the Imperial Palace. Come, put this on. Chu Huayin was like an elder brother as he personally embedded 2 military insignia on the collar of his armor. It was a silver military insignia with the image of a mighty tiger's head. It represented the Tiger Guard and behind it were 3 silver stars. This was also the standard insignia of a Centurion of the Empire. At this moment, Lin Muyu was already considered a mid-level general in the army. Let's go. Chu Huayin mounted his horse and looked at him meaningfully with a smile. He said, however, you must be very careful. The supervisor of the inspection office is Sir Bai Fan. You must be very careful when carrying out missions in the inspection office. You must not provoke Sir Bai Fan. Otherwise, he won't let you off easily. Ah? Lin Muyu was startled. He secretly thought that it was indeed not easy to mingle around. He thought that he would have nothing to do after entering Zetian Palace. He didn't expect that he would still have to fawn over his superiors here. Not far away, a group of Imperial Army guards wearing white robes galloped over. After they got closer, they all dismounted and stood in a row to salute Lin Muyu. The person in the lead said, I am Wei Chou. I have brought 9 brothers from the Imperial Army to report. Sir Lin Muyu, from now on, you are our direct superior general. We will follow you to the inspection office to report. Wei Chou. Lin Muyu couldn't help but secretly rejoice. This Wei Chou looked upright and outspoken, and there was a heroic spirit between his brows. It was a gift from the heavens to have such subordinates. She nodded and said, all right, let's set off now. Yes. Chu Huayin didn't send them off too far. He was on duty today and had to continue patrolling the palace. Thus, Lin Muyu and the others went to the inspection office on their own. The sound of horse hooves reverberated throughout the imperial city. At the outermost area of the Zetian Palace, There was a group of buildings that appeared to be of a simple and unadorned style. They looked exceptionally majestic, and there were 3 large words written on a horizontal board: Inspection Division. Lin Muyu held a document in her hand and led 10 Imperial Army guards in. She said to the guard, "The new Tiger Guard Lin Muyu has led 10 Imperial Army guards to await orders." A voice came from the hall. "So it's Lin Muyu who has graced the inspection office. Come in." "Yes." Lin Muyu lifted her battle robe and stepped over the high black threshold into the inspection office. She looked up and saw 2 rows of Imperial Army guards lined up on both sides with solemn expressions. At the end of the hall was a steel table, and a general with a long beard was sitting there. He looked up at Lin Muyu and said with a smile, "I've long heard of Lin Muyu's great name. It's an honor to see you with my own eyes today." Lin Muyu pays her respects to Lord Bai Fan. Lin Muyu was still very respectful. Bai Fan nodded and said, "Lin Muyu, our inspection office originally had a total of 5 teams. Including your team today, there will be 6 teams. Each team needs to carry out missions for 10 days every month. Your team will be responsible for patrolling Tongtian Street for the next 7 days. Do you understand?" "Yes." "All right." Bai Fan suddenly smiled and said, "I heard that you once saved Her Highness Qin Yin in the dragon-seeking forest?" "Yes, ha." Bai Fan stood up and cupped his hands with a smile. "It seems that Lord Lin Muyu is the savior of the future crown prince. This humble Bai Fan greets you." Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a bit disgusted. She frowned and said calmly, "You're too kind, Lord." "All right." Bai Fan said, "Go to the camp and pick 100 Imperial Army soldiers to be your subordinates. The safety of Tongtian Street will be in your hands today, but you must remember that Gate 30 to 50 of Tongtian Street needs to be carefully patrolled. You must not disturb the order there, otherwise, I will not let you off easily, even if you are Her Highness Savior." Yes." Lin Muyu cupped her hands, "Then this subordinate will take her leave. Go." After leaving the door, Wei Chou and the other Imperial Army guards followed closely behind. Lin Muyu frowned. What does Lord Bai Fan mean by Gate 30 to 50? What kind of people live there? Wei Chou spurred his horse to catch up with her and rode alongside Lin Muyu. He lowered his voice and said, "General, Gate 30 to 50 includes the largest gambling dens, brothels, orphanages, mints, nursing homes and so on. It is the economic center of the entire empire. The wealth there is comparable to that of a country, but there are also all kinds of hidden struggles. As far as I know, the owners of the gambling dens and brothels are all familiar with Lord Bai Fan. So when we patrol there, no matter what we see, we just pretend not to see it." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and said, "Then what's the use of us patrolling?" Wei Chou was startled and asked tentatively, "Is General not afraid that Lord Bai Fan will pursue this matter?" Lin Muyu laughed heartily and said in a heroic manner, "As the royal guards, we must be worthy of this pure white robe. How can we allow this robe to be stained with dirt? I, Lin Muyu, am a Virgo, a perfectionist. I can't tolerate even a speck of dust in my eyes. Wei Chou, do you think I'm right?" Wei Chou was startled. He didn't quite understand what Virgo meant, but he still felt his blood boiling. He quickly cupped his hands and said, "If General is really doing this for the sake of the world, then no matter what happens, Wei Chou is willing to pledge his life to follow General." Good. When they arrived at the Imperial Army's main camp, they selected 100 elites and 10 Imperial Army guards. These 110 people were Lin Muyu's personal forces. She led these 110 people out of Zetian Palace and slowly rode into Tongtian Street. Lin Muyu's white robe fluttered in the cool breeze and she suddenly felt proud of herself. Tongtian Street was the economic core of the entire imperial capital. There were more than 2,000 portals in total. Therefore they could only split their forces into 10 teams. Lin Muyu personally led 11 people, including Wei Chou, the Imperial Army Guard, and 10 Imperial Army Cavalry. The main targets for inspection were numbers 30 to 50. Since Bai Fan was a tiger, according to Lin Muyu's personality, she would definitely touch the tiger's butt. Chapter 108. Leading the war horses, they slowly traversed through Tongtian Street. The passers-by on the road all cast respectful gazes. In the eyes of the commoners, this group of people dressed in white was a symbol of power, so many people gave way. Lin Muyu frowned and said in a low voice, "The commoners are afraid of us?" Wei Chou smiled awkwardly, "Yes, but also not." "How so?" Wei Chou said, "The Imperial Army is the largest part of the Imperial capital's defense force. It is said that 7,000 people can ensure the imperial capital is impregnable, but, on normal days the imperial army is actually in a state of inaction, and there are even frequent incidents of invading and harassing the commoners. Commander Qinlei is busy with official duties, and does not have the time to care about these things. Lin Muyu frowned and continued to lead the horse forward. Shop after shop flashed past in front of them, and very soon, they arrived in front of a house with white walls. The faint sound of a woman crying could be heard from inside. With a creak, the door opened and a group of more than 30 women in ragged clothes walked out under the escort of guards. Each of their faces were ashen and their eyes were lifeless. "Hurry up and leave, you lowly servant." A guard raised his hand and used the hilt of his sword to fiercely smash a woman's shoulder, causing her to stagger and fall to the ground. She raised her head and looked angrily at the guard, but did not say a word. Lin Muyu was instantly petrified. That woman's eyes were so similar to Xiang's. What's going on? Lin Muyu flipped over on the horse and rushed over. She had already raised her hand and pulled out the burning prairie sword. The long sword quickly pierced through, and with a kang, it broke the body of the sword that the guard raised again. "How dare you? Who is it?" The guard quickly turned around and saw Lin Muyu riding over on a horse, and the insignia of a centurion on his collar. He hurriedly and respectfully said, "General? Greetings to the general." "What's going on with these women?" Lin Muyu asked indifferently. The guard was startled and said, "General, this is the nursery hall. These women are naturally the camp concubines. I am currently bringing them to the Imperial Army camp to carry out the daily task of washing clothes." Behind him, Wei Chou caught up and said, "General, these are indeed camp concubines. What is a camp concubine?" Lin Muyu asked. Ingji is. Wei Chou found it hard to say it out loud. He clenched his teeth and said, "Ingji is also known as the laundry girl. She is responsible for washing clothes in the army. In addition, Ingji is also responsible for dispelling the soldiers' desires." "So, General?" Lin Muyu looked at the group of girls in front of him. Each and every one of them had lifeless eyes. Some of them were even very young, but their bodies were already riddled with scars. Instantly, an indescribable anger rose in his heart. He raised his hand and grabbed the burning prairie sword that was circling back and said, "Take them back. Guards, follow me into this nurturing hall. I want to see what this nurturing hall is exactly." "General." Wei Chou hurriedly stopped him. "This rule has been passed down since the era of the god of war, Xiang Wenyan. We can't break this rule." Lin Muyu's heart ached. She gritted her teeth and said, "Wei Chou, are you willing to see them continue to suffer? If you can't bear it, then follow me in." "Yes, General." 10 Imperial guards got on their horses and charged through the door of the nurturing hall. The dozens of guards inside the door didn't dare to resist when they saw the Imperial guards. They all stood there dumbstruck. This was a large courtyard. Not far away, the miserable cries of young girls could be heard. Lin Muyu spurred her horse forward and directly knocked open the door of a room in the corner. She saw a fat body wriggling on top of a young girl's body. "Who is it?" Fatty turned around with a ruthless expression and shouted, "How dare you spoil my plans? You're courting death." He didn't even look at who it was. He grabbed a saber from the side and rushed over. His martial spirit appeared on the saber. This person's martial arts attainment wasn't low. Although he was fat, he was very agile. Lin Muyu flipped off her horse. She gently extended her sword and sucked the opponent's long saber. She quickly turned and retreated, bringing Fatty out of the room. The moment he was lured out of the room, Lin Muyu's entire body erupted with a wave of Do Qi. The burning prairie sword suddenly pressed down, bringing the fatty's body down. She then turned around and gave a roundhouse kick. The dense Do Qi wrapped around her combat boots, and with a ping, she kicked the back of the fatty's head. How could the fatty withstand such an attack under the influence of anger? His entire body flew up and crashed into the wall. The bluestone tiles scattered all over the floor. The fatty's protective Jin Qi had completely shattered, and he had already fainted. The surrounding people stood there dumbfounded. Only a young guard muttered, "Lord Zhao's cultivation level is at the second firmament of the Earth realm. He was defeated in one strike. This Lord Imperial Guard is so powerful." Lin Muyu raised his head and looked into the room. The girl was sitting naked on the bed, crying in pain. He slowly walked back into the room. He raised his hand and pulled the white battle robe from behind him. He put it on the girl and said, "Don't cry. It's all over now." The girl suddenly tore off her battle robe and threw it on the ground. Her eyes were filled with despair. She looked at him with a pair of blood-red eyes and said, Stop pretending. You soldiers are all beasts, all beasts. Lin Muyu stood there in a daze. He didn't explain anything. He turned around and closed the door. There was a commotion outside. Another group of guards rushed in. The leader wore the rank of a chiliarch. He said with a livid face, "What happened? What's going on?" One of the guards said, "General Manjin, when Lord Zhao was opening a camp concubine, this royal guard suddenly barged in and knocked Lord Zhao out." Manjin looked at Lin Muyu with a face full of rage. "Who are you? Do you know the rules? Attacking the nursery is the same as attacking the Empire's army. Do you, the Imperial Guard, understand? Can this place represent the Empire's army?" Lin Muyu raised his eyebrows. His body was covered with dense do qi and his martial soul was about to be unleashed. He looked at the group of soldiers in front of him and said through gritted teeth, "You guys treat women as tools to satisfy your lust and humiliate them. You guys don't treat humans as humans and trample on them like this. You guys are not fit to call yourselves soldiers of the Empire. The territory of the Great Qin Empire would have been destroyed if it was left to useless people like you to protect it." Manjin's face was full of anger. He could feel Lin Muyu's powerful fighting spirit. He knew that he was no match for this squad leader. He pulled out his sword and said, "Soldiers with spears, surround him. I don't care if he's from the Imperial Guard or some other army. I, Manjin, will send him to the military law office for hurting people in the nursery. Come on." The corner of Lin Muyu's mouth curled up, revealing a handsome smile. He actually took the initiative to provoke them. Behind him, there was a group of girls in disheveled clothes shivering in the room. These girls were collected from various places. Their only purpose was to use their bodies to please the Empire's army. "Go!" Manjin shouted. Immediately, a large group of soldiers with spears surrounded them. The men brought by Lin Muyu were not to be trifled with. Wei Chou pulled out his sword with a roar and swung it. He concentrated his true energy into the blade and turned it into a sword aura that swept through the crowd. In an instant, 7 or 8 spears were chopped off by him. As expected, none of the Imperial Guards were easy to deal with. The rest of the Imperial Guards also pulled out their swords. Some of them had already mounted their horses and were ready to charge. More and more soldiers poured into the room. The insignia on their shoulders indicated that they were from the Imperial Guards. Lin Muyu even recognized that Manjin was a chiliarch of the Imperial Guards. Wang. Lightly raising her finger, she controlled the burning prairie sword that was enveloped in flames. Ready to attack at any moment, Lin Muyu said indifferently, "General Manjin, the commander of the Imperial Guards, Feng Jixing, is my big brother. I don't want to hurt the relationship between us. If you know what's good for you, immediately withdraw your men. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." After all, Manjin was a chiliarch. How could he endure such humiliation? Waving his sword, he shouted, "What's the point of talking so much?" A group of soldiers with spears leveled their spears and charged in from all directions. Lin Muyu had a clear view of the situation. With a light wave of her left hand, the martial spirit gourd immediately condensed into the wall of the gourd. Dang dang dang, the spears of the Imperial army were repelled. Her right hand controlled the prairie fire sword to launch an attack. The blade of the sword transformed into a fiery rainbow that swept across. With a low roar, the fire dragon sword spirit instantly appeared. With a furious roar, it devoured a dozen of the spearmen. In the next moment, these people were already struggling to extinguish the flames while howling in pain. "Bastard!" Manjin roared and slashed down with his sword with 3 streaks of light. His martial soul roar. There were no weak soldiers under a strong general. The moment Manjin attacked, it was obvious that he was extraordinary. But Lin Muyu was stronger, much stronger. She swept her left arm across the horse's back and grabbed the shining pear blossom spear in her hand. With a light shake, the tip of the spear shook and collided with Manjin's blade. Ding! The sound of the collision was very sharp. Manjin felt a chill in his arm. Immediately after, he saw a beast soul appear on the pear blossom spear. It was the soul of the 11,000-year ice Qilin. Roar! The spear's soul disappeared in a flash, and the ice Qilin's sharp claws swept across Manjin's armor. Snowflakes fell, and in the next moment, Manjin was forced to take a few steps back. His face was filled with shock and his entire body was frozen and numb. Frost crawled up his skin, and he instantly lost his ability to fight. After all, the difference between Earth Realm and Heaven Realm was too great, so he could not be blamed. Retreat, retreat. Manjin's face was full of shock. The surrounding Imperial guards also stopped. Everyone knew that with this small number of soldiers, they could not do anything to this young Imperial guard. The battle ended in less than 2 minutes. However, the blood on the ground was proof that this battle had happened. Wei Chou held his blood-stained sword and said with a grave expression, "General, we have offended the Imperial Guard's patrolling troops. We have already made a mistake. What should we do now?" Lin Muyu's gaze fell on the young girls imprisoned in the nursery. There were about 200 of them. He frowned and asked, "Wei Chou, if we leave now, what will happen to these women?" Wei Chou was stunned. He said, "They will continue to live the fate that they deserve." "Then what will happen if I let them go?" "They will naturally be free, but General, I'm afraid you will be punished by military law." "Then let them go," Lin Muyu sighed softly and said, "If there is any responsibility, I will bear it alone." "Yes, General." Chapter 109. The Imperial Guards dispersed, leaving behind a few injured who were howling in pain on the ground. This calmed Lin Muyu down. She mounted her horse and ordered, "2 of you stay behind to treat the injured. The rest of you follow me to escort the girls out of Lanyan City." Wei Chou cupped his fists and said, "Yes, General. However, these girls are penniless. What should we do?" Lin Muyu searched her pockets and found some gold, silver and diamond coins. She took out a diamond coin and handed it to a soldier, saying, "Take this and exchange it for gold and distribute it to these girls. Each of them will get 5 coins. If there's not enough, I'll make it up to you later." Wei Chou took out a bag of gold and said, "What are you saying, General? I've already given them the money. How can I let you make up for the lack?" "The Imperial Guards will be here soon." Lin Muyu looked outside the hall and said, "We must hurry. Otherwise, we won't be able to leave once the Imperial Guards arrive." "Yes, General." Soon, nearly 200 prostitutes came out of the recuperation hall in ragged clothes, including the girl who had just lost her virginity. When she finally walked out of the recuperation hall, a trace of life finally appeared in her eyes. In fact, being able to live was more important than anything, even more important than chastity. Sometimes human nature was like this. Lin Muyu escorted these girls out of the city. She had a patrol token on duty, so she didn't encounter any obstructions when she left the city. The autumn wind was warm outside the city. The group of girls each took out a gold and knelt by the side of the road, thanking her sincerely. Some of them even hugged their heads and cried. Lin Muyu sat on her warhorse and closed her eyes. Through the spirit pulse technique, she could feel the sound of hooves in the distance. She pointed to the south and said, "There's a village about 3 miles south. Go live there and don't come back." "Thank you, sir, thank you." The women cried and supported each other as they left. In less than 5 minutes, the heavy sound of iron hooves could be heard, and a large group of Imperial soldiers rushed out of the city. There were at least 1,000 of them, but Lin Muyu recognized the leading general. It was Luo Lai, the Chiliarch who had brought him into Lanyan City for the first time. "You." Luo Lai's sword-like eyebrows furrowed as he urged his horse forward. "You're really too reckless. Do you know how much trouble you've caused? Letting 200 concubines loose is a capital offense in the army." Lin Muyu said apologetically, "Lord Luo Lai, I'm really sorry. This time, I injured a soldier of the Imperial Guard. I was indeed too rash, but I really can't bear to see a girl being humiliated in front of me. If I can endure all of this, then I don't deserve to wear this white robe. I'm sorry." Sigh. Luo Lai let out a long sigh. The nursery hall is where the Imperial Army gathers the concubines in Lanyan City. It's directly under the jurisdiction of the Divine Marquis Constabulary. You've destroyed the nursery hall this time. The Divine Marquis Constabulary will definitely not let you off. Based on Divine Marquis Zheng Yifun's attitude towards you, there's no way he'll let you off this time. What do you plan to do? Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, "I'll take responsibility for my own actions. I'll go to Zetian Palace myself to see His Majesty and accept my punishment." Luo Lai nodded. "We'll split into 2 groups. I'll leave 500 cavalrymen to escort you to Zetian Palace. You must be careful. Before you reach Zetian Palace, don't fall into the hands of the Divine Marquis Constabulary or the Military Police Battalion. Zheng Yifun and Xiang Yu aren't easy to deal with. I'll immediately look for Lord General Feng and Lord Qin Lei. With their pleas, perhaps His Majesty will be lenient." Thank you, Lord Luo Lai." "Let's go. The Imperial Guard will have to confiscate your weapons first. Is that all right?" After handing over the burning prairie sword and pear blossom spear, Lin Muyu dismissed Wei Chou and the rest of the Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards, allowing them to return to the patrol station to hand in their orders. Wei Chou was extremely unwilling, but in the end, he could only leave indignantly and watch as Lin Muyu was escorted by a group of Imperial Guards to Zetian Palace. Skyspan Street was extremely lively. The commoners surrounded the two sides of the street and looked at the Imperial Guards formation from afar. They were pointing and discussing something. After traveling for a short distance, a troop of soldiers galloped over from afar. Their armor was bright, and there was a golden eagle insignia embedded on their chest plates. They were from the military police battalion. The bloodbath spear in Xiang Yu's hand drooped down, suffused with a blood-red luster. He abruptly raised the spear and shouted in a low voice, "Audacious Lin Muyu, how dare you defy the Empire's military law and wreak havoc in the nursery hall? Men, arrest him and bring him back to the military police battalion." Lin Muyu's brows were tightly knitted. The Imperial Guard centurion cupped his fists and smiled. "This general greets Lord Xiang Yu. Lin Muyu has already been arrested by this general. The Imperial Guard will escort him to Zetian Palace to await His Majesty's punishment. There's no need for Lord Xiang Yu to worry." "Is that so?" Xiang Yu's arm trembled slightly, and raging flames surged onto the spear, transforming into a ferocious tiger martial soul. It was a first-grade martial soul, trampling fire tiger. His arm lowered slightly, and he urged his horse to gallop over. The bloodbath spear was covered in raging flames as he laughed. "There's no one Xiang Yu can't capture if I want to." The Imperial Guard centurion was stunned, and he didn't even have the courage to draw his sword. Xiang Yu had long stepped into the second level of the heavenly stage, and was a heavenly king powerhouse. With such a huge disparity in strength, how could a mere centurion dare to fight with Xiang Yu? "Get out of my way." Lin Muyu abruptly urged her horse to knock the centurion away. She opened her palm, and the black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall instantly condensed, taking on Xiang Yu's determined attack head-on. The trampling fire tiger roared incessantly, and the bloodbath spear produced a whirling force, piercing through the black tortoise shell like an awl. Xiang Yu roared, and his tiger eyes were filled with rage. "Break for me." Another loud sound, and the dragon scale wall was also pierced through, and the bloodbath spear pierced towards Lin Muyu's neck with a biting cold flame. Wah! At that critical moment, Lin Muyu dodged to the side, and the bloodbath spear left a bloody mark on his neck. He flipped off his horse and with a quick stride, he arrived beside the swordsman lieutenant. He opened his palms slightly, and the prairie fire sword was unsheathed. As soon as he turned around, he saw the blazing bloodbath spear flying towards him like lightning. He had no time to dodge and could only use the prairie fire sword to block. Sparks flew everywhere. Xiang Yu's strength was just too strong, and he was sent flying backwards, crashing into a wall behind him. Struggle before death. Xiang Yu laughed coldly and suddenly lifted his left arm. Flames swirled around his fist and he roared, "Fire Cloud Fist." The whistling fist carried with it a monstrous power. Lin Muyu gritted his teeth and hurriedly raised both his palms, instantly raising his do chi to the maximum, and the dragon scale wall plus black tortoise shell was formed once more. Bang! The flames formed a shockwave, pushing a group of Imperial Guards and military police back again and again. As for the citizens of Lanyan City who were watching from afar, they all covered their eyes and lowered their heads to avoid the impact of the shockwave. The person who felt the most uncomfortable was none other than Lin Muyu. Xiang Yu's punch was very strange and the layers of flames rippled. Lin Muyu used his do chi to strengthen the walls of the gourd, and blocked 3 layers of the force. However, he didn't expect that there would be 3 more layers of force, each stronger than the one before. This was the marvel of the Fire Cloud mantra that Xiang Yu had cultivated for many years. Many experts had been defeated by this punch. Bang! The moment the walls of the gourd shattered, Xiang Yu's punch landed on Lin Muyu's chest armor, directly shattering the golden star insignia of the sacred temple sparring master. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu concentrated the rest of his do chi on his chest to withstand this blow. Bang! He slammed into the wall and terrifying cracks appeared on the brick wall behind him. Fortunately, he wasn't too seriously injured. His blood and chi were surging and he felt very uncomfortable. Ha! Xiang Yu sneered and the bloodbath spear thrust forward like lightning. He was obviously going to kill Lin Muyu, and not bring him back to the military police camp for interrogation. Lin Muyu knew how strong the person in front of him was, but there was nothing he could do. His strength was completely suppressed, and his do chi was almost exhausted in an instant. He couldn't summon his strength for a moment, and he couldn't even use the 7 luminaries' profound energy. Looking at Xiang Yu's spear thrust forward, Lin Muyu had a feeling that death was approaching. She never thought that she would actually die here. This was probably the shame of thousands of transmigrators, right? Moreover, it was such a worthless death. Dying for 200 camp girls? Those transmigrators had all made great contributions, and their names would go down in history. In an instant, Lin Muyu's mind was full of thoughts. At this moment, there was a sudden whistling sound in the air, and a broad saber carrying a majestic do chi fell from the sky. It was the Windcutter saber. Feng Jixing was here. Clang. Xiang Yu's sure-kill spear was directly repelled by Feng Jixing, and a cyclone surged between the two. Feng Jixing held the Windcutter saber, and his face was filled with battle intent and anger as he said, "Lord Xiang Yu, Lin Muyu is a royal guard. You want to kill him? Do you know that the royal guard is a title bestowed by the emperor? Do you have the qualifications to kill a royal guard?" Ha! Xiang Yu raised the corner of his mouth with some disdain. The fire cloud art on his arm surged as he said indifferently, "Feng Jixing, I know you have a personal relationship with Lin Muyu. If you want to help him, then come at me together. I, Xiang Yu, am unparalleled in the world. So what if I fight the two of you alone?" Feng Jixing said, "You really aren't willing to let Lin Muyu off today?" "That's right." Xiang Yu's eyes were filled with killing intent as he said, "He destroyed the nurturing hall and openly challenged the empire's military law. This is already equivalent to challenging the dignity of the god of war, Xiang Wentian. As Xiang Wentian's descendant, how can I allow such a person to live in this world?" Lightly swinging the Windcutter saber, Feng Jixing said indifferently, "Lord Xiang Yu, I, Feng Jixing, have always respected you as a hero. But if you insist on killing you today, then you'll have to step over my Feng Jixing's corpse." As he spoke, Feng Jixing raised his saber and shouted, "All Imperial Guards, listen up. This is a personal grudge between me and General Xiang Yu. None of you are allowed to make a move even if I, Feng Jixing, die in battle." Xiang Yu sneered, "You're courting death. I've killed many Heavenly Realm powerhouses, but I've never killed an empire's commander. Then I'll start with you." Chapter 110. Do you still have strength? Feng Jixing held the Windcutter and asked in a low voice. Lin Muyu was recovering and said in a low voice, "I still need a few more seconds to recover the flow of battle chi." "Brother Feng, I'm so sorry. Silly boy, what are you talking about?" Feng Jixing had his back to Lin Muyu, his white cloak fluttering, and said with a smile, "You just did what I, Feng Jixing, wanted to do for many years but didn't dare to do." Ha! Lin Muyu was stunned, and her heart warmed. The man in front of her was indeed like a big brother protecting her. Such a close friend was hard to find in a lifetime. Holding the burning prairie sword tightly, Lin Muyu suppressed the surging aura in her body in less than 10 seconds, regained control of the battle chi in her body, quickly summoned the martial soul gourd to condense the black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall, and stood side by side with Feng Jixing. Feng Jixing growled, and the second-class martial soul, purple electric flame wolf, surrounded his body with fierce flames. Facing the challenge of two Heaven Realm powerhouses, Xiang Yu was extremely calm. He raised his hand and threw the bloodbath spear. With a clang, the spearhead went straight into the wall. He clenched his fist, and his martial soul came out of his body. He said with a smile, "I haven't fought for a long time. Come." As he spoke, he took the initiative to attack. His iron fist was surrounded by raging flames, and like a mad dragon coming out of the sea, he rushed towards Feng Jixing's saber. Feng Jixing didn't dare to be careless. His body sank slightly, and the Windcutter was surrounded by a blue airflow. He suddenly turned around and slashed out a mighty blow. The first style of the Windcutter technique, Desert Gale. Many of the Imperial generals were well versed in the Windcutter technique, but he was the only one who could use it as smoothly and domineeringly as Feng Jixing. After a collision, the fist force of the Fire Cloud fist was forcibly dispersed. However, Xiang Yu's punch was astonishingly fast, and the second punch followed, directly hitting Feng Jixing's protective battle chi. Feng Jixing took a few steps back, his face full of shock. Was this Xiang Yu's true strength? Ha! Xiang Yu laughed wildly, then turned around and blasted a punch towards Lin Muyu. In his mind, Lin Muyu was the weaker of the two, so killing him first was the best strategy. The burning prairie sword spun in the air with blazing lightning. Lin Muyu used lightning to control the sword with one hand and suddenly clenched her right fist. Streaks of blood-colored cyclones quickly condensed in the surroundings. It was a move of the seven luminaries' profound energy. Chaos of all life. Bang! The surrounding earth trembled slightly, and both Lin Muyu and Xiang Yu retreated several steps at the same time. A cyclone surged out with the two of them as the center. Both of them were shocked. Xiang Yu didn't expect Lin Muyu to have such a vigorous and domineering strength, and Lin Muyu didn't expect Xiang Yu to be able to eat the complete chaotic lumen of the common people without any injuries. Could it be that this person was stronger than a Saint Realm expert like Tsang Baiha? Swoosh. For Feng Jixing's second slash, the battle saber was wrapped in hot sand, and the surface was suffused with a dazzling golden light. The purple electric flame wolf martial soul was added to the battle saber, and a fierce strike fell from the sky. Hot sand golden. Xiang Yu let out a low roar, and streaks of chaotic flames rose above his arms, condensing into a fire lotus in the blink of an eye. He held a scorching fire lotus in one hand and blasted it out, shouting, "Feng Jixing, have a taste of this father's chaotic 9 strikes." The first strike, chaotic fire lotus. Bang! Piercingly cold flames bloomed in the air, and Feng Jixing was forced to retreat along with his saber. However, his handsome face was full of determination. His battle chi soared in the air, and he raised his battle saber for the third slash. His body was wrapped in a violent wind, and the world suddenly darkened as if all the light was absorbed. This slash seemed to have become a storm, violent blade storm. The corner of Xiang Yu's mouth curled up, and his body slightly bent. Chaotic energy gushed out from his palm, and his feet suddenly stomped on the ground, crushing countless bricks. Bang! He left the ground. The third strike of chaotic 9 strikes. Chaotic heaven splitter. Boom! The power of the storm and the chaotic energy collided in the air, and Xiang Yu's violent and domineering power raged, and Feng Jixing was instantly sent flying along with his saber. Swoosh! Xiang Yu turned around and saw a long sword with a scorching spiral of flames flying toward him. It was Lin Muyu's dragon flame spiral break. This strike was imbued with true dragon essence fire, and he was going all out. Damn it! Xiang Yu cursed under his breath. He could clearly feel how powerful this strike was. Without thinking, he spread his arms apart, and the chaotic energy surged in his palm, turning into a black vortex that blocked in front of him. This black vortex was like a black hole that could devour all power. Xiang Yu's eyes widened and he roared, "You're courting death." The sixth strike of chaotic 9 strikes. Chaotic annihilation. Bang, bang, bang. The burning prairie sword spiraled through, and the sound of energy collisions constantly erupted in the dark force field of chaotic annihilation. Xiang Yu's face was ashen and his veins were bulging. He almost used all the battle energy in his body to support the chaotic annihilation. Just when he was about to collapse, he saw Lin Muyu leap up from the ground. Her iron fist was surrounded by demonic energy, and she directly punched at his chest. Two luminaries' demonic dance. Xiang Yu was flustered. He raised his left arm and with a clang, he knocked away the burning prairie sword. He raised his right arm in front of his chest, and his battle energy formed an aura shield to protect himself. Bang! Under the heavy strike, the second strike of the 7 luminaries' profound energy was finally effective. It forcefully dispersed Xiang Yu's protective battle energy, and hit him heavily in the chest. But at the same time, the instant Xiang Yu retreated, he also kicked Lin Muyu's abdomen heavily. With a bang, he was sent flying straight to the ground and he rolled very far away. The wall of the gourd instantly shattered. In front of the chaotic energy, it seemed like the gourd's defense was already useless. Pata! Landing lightly on the ground, Xiang Yu rubbed his somewhat numb arm. The battle energy in his body was still very vigorous. He chuckled, walked towards Lin Muyu step by step and said, "The two of you working together doesn't seem to be much." Lin Muyu opened her hand and called back the burning prairie sword. Holding the sword hilt, she struggled to stand up. Her face was full of ash, and the white robe behind her was also stained with a lot of flame dust. Right at this moment, a golden radiance blossomed behind Xiang Yu. That was the radiance of the god-binding lock martial soul. Qinlei had arrived. The thunder-split saber was covered with lightning. Qinlei directly jumped up from his warhorse, and the saber shone brilliantly. It directly pierced through Xiang Yu's protective battle energy and attacked the main body. Thunder-split diffraction slash. This saber was extremely fast and also extremely sharp. Bang! Xiang Yu quickly retreated, using the saber's force to retreat several dozen meters. With an incomparable fury on his face, he said, Young Duke Qinlei, you also want to be enemies with me, Xiangyu, is that it? Qinlei held the thunder split saber with a gloomy expression. Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu are my brothers. If you want to touch them, you'll have to ask my thunder split saber first. Is that so? Xiang Yu's sword-like eyebrows rose and he revealed his arrogance. He said with a smile, then come at me together, young duke. Xiang Yu would like to see what it feels like to fight 1 against 3. Streaks of primal chaos cyclones rapidly spun and extended around him, actually forming a piercingly cold storm. It was as if a deity had descended to the mortal world, giving people the feeling that they had to look up to him. Primal Chaos 9 strikes, the secret technique that the war god Xiang Wendian left behind for his descendants. It could indeed be said to be unparalleled in the world. Feng Jixing supported himself with the wind cutter saber and stood up. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at Lin Muyu from afar. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, forcibly raised her battle energy and strengthened the walls of the gourd. She nodded slightly, indicating that they could continue fighting. Go! Qinlei roared and took the initiative to attack. The lightning force on the thunder split saber continuously extended and actually formed a force field with a radius of about 5 meters. He raised the long saber and swept it horizontally with a low shout. The saber's light went straight for Xiang Yu. Thunder split saber's second strike. Thunder saber breaking flames. However, within the primal chaos, streaks of lightning flickered. Xiang Yu used the power of primal chaos to condense a long spear flickering with lightning. He grabbed it in his hand and smiled. Go to hell. Swish. The primal chaos lightning spear went straight for Qinlei. Bang. Lightning and flames mixed together. God-binding chains rose around Qinlei to protect their master, but they still couldn't withstand the attack of the lightning spear. Qinlei spat out fresh blood from his saber and fell back. Xiang Yu had also taken the brunt of his attack. Xiang Yu's body trembled slightly. His blood and qi surged and his expression turned even uglier. On the right, streaks of lightning rapidly converged. Feng Jixing poured the lightning force of his martial soul into the wind cutter saber and created the 4th style of the wind saber technique, Wild Thunder Saber. Feng Jixing slashed with his saber and was pushed back by the opponent's primal chaos force. Meanwhile, Xiang Yu finally couldn't hold on any longer. A trickle of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. Feng Jixing, you bastard. Xiang Yu's expression was ashen. However, a powerful force suddenly attacked from behind. He didn't even need to think to know that it was Lin Muyu's attack. In fact, Xiang Yu had calculated everything, but he had overlooked Lin Muyu. He simply didn't expect this unknown brat to grasp a power that he had never heard of before. It was incomparably tyrannical and didn't even lose to the chaotic 9 strikes. 2 luminaries' demonic dance. Lin Muyu was going all out. This was already the 2nd time she had used the power of the 2nd luminaries in a day. Their fists collided and the air seemed to shatter. Cracks appeared on the houses not far away, and some even collapsed directly. Pa! Streaks of blood splattered on the ground. Xiang Yu's body trembled slightly, but his arms still maintained the posture of punching. Lin Muyu slowly took a few steps back. The muscles all over her body felt like they were on fire. The excessive use of the 7 luminaries' mystic force had ultimately resulted in a backlash. Fortunately, she had cultivated the spiritual pulse technique, and the power of her soul was much stronger. Therefore, she hadn't reached the point where she would instantly age due to the backlash. Are you alright? Feng Jixing limped over with his wind cutter saber and asked with concern. This brat didn't look like he was alright. Lin Muyu shook her head slowly. I'm fine. Where's Brother Feng? I'm alright too. Feng Jixing propped himself on the ground with his saber and walked over step by step. Commander Qinlei, are you alright? Qinlei sat on the ground, and the power of primal chaos was still surging in his body. In reality, he had withstood Xiang Yu's strongest attack. Fortunately, his physique was strong. If it was Lin Muyu or Feng Jixing, they might not be able to withstand Xiang Yu's strongest attack. It's good that you're alright. Feng Jixing laughed. He wiped the blood stain at the corner of his mouth, looked at Xiang Yu who was not far away and asked, General Xiang Yu, do you still want to fight? Xiang Yu's face was ashen. His do qi was almost exhausted. Even if he had made up his mind to kill, he had no more strength to fight. Just at this moment, the sound of horse hooves came from afar. It was an imperial guard holding a golden scroll. He said, His Majesty's decree orders Feng Jixing and Qinlei to escort Lin Muyu back to Zetian Palace Hall. Yes. Feng Jixing was finally relieved. Chapter 111. The Zetian Palace's main hall was filled with hundreds of officials. The Emperor, Qin Jin, sat on the dragon throne with a solemn expression. His hand was on the hilt of his sword and his expression was extremely ugly. Lin Muyu's hands were tied and she was personally escorted into the main hall by Feng Jixing. The Holy Palace's battle robe on her body was still stained with blood. Some of it was hers and some of it was Xiang Yu's. Behind her, Qin Lei and Xiang Yu also walked in, causing the officials to be dumbfounded. Tell me. The Emperor, Qin Jin, looked at Lin Muyu coldly and said, "This emperor specially pardoned you to join the Imperial Guard as a commoner. Why did you create such a disaster on your first day? Destroying the nurturing hall and releasing more than 200 female soldiers, do you know how big of a crime this is? Lin Muyu, do you know your mistake?" "I know my mistake." Lin Muyu readily admitted her mistake. "Where did you go wrong?" The Emperor continued to ask. Lin Muyu said indifferently, "You violated the military law. Since you know the military law, why did you release those 200 female soldiers?" Qin Jin asked. Lin Muyu raised her head, her gaze like a clear spring and said, "Your Majesty, the female soldiers are also people and the daughter of an ordinary family. They shouldn't be treated like this. I know I violated the military law, but I don't think I did anything wrong. On the contrary, the military law is very wrong. Can raising female soldiers really increase the Empire's combat power?" "What did you say?" Qin Jin raised his eyebrows, revealing a trace of anger. The leader of the officials, Zheng Yifan, who was standing at the front, stepped forward and said, "Your Majesty, Lin Muyu has no respect for the military law and should be executed immediately. The rules for female soldiers were personally set by the war god, Xiang Wenyan, and they have been unimpeded in the army for so many years. This brat actually dared to question Xiang Wentian's foresight and even dared to contradict your Majesty. This is simply disgraceful." Qin Jin said indifferently, "Official Zheng is right. Lin Muyu, what else do you have to say?" Lin Muyu's heart sank. Did this emperor really want to kill her? "I have nothing to say," he said calmly. He could not go against the monarch anymore. A smart person should have a smart way of doing things. Instead of going against the monarch here and getting killed, he might as well endure the humiliation and wait until he was strong enough to change all this unfairness. "Minister, how should Lin Muyu be punished for her crime?" the emperor asked. The minister walked out slowly with a sinister smile on his face. He said, "Your Majesty, this person has committed a crime that should be punished. He should be executed in the Zetian Palace as a warning to others." Qin Jin muttered to himself, but didn't say anything. Feng Jixing hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "Your Majesty, Lin Muyu only violated the military law because he doesn't understand it. Moreover, his loyalty to the Qin family has never changed. This general believes that he shouldn't be punished with capital punishment." Qin Lei also cupped his fists and said, "Your Majesty, this general also believes that Lin Muyu's crime shouldn't be punished. Your Majesty, please reconsider. The Empire is in need of people. Lin Muyu is skilled in both the pen and the sword. He can't be killed." Zheng Yifan sneered, "Do you think that our Qin Empire still needs a frivolous brat to lead the country? Your Majesty, this humble subject believes that Lin Muyu should be executed immediately. Otherwise, everyone will dare to disobey the military law. The Empire's army will collapse on its own." Minister Luo Xing cupped his fists and said, "This humble subject also believes that this person must be executed." Luo Xing's son, Luo Bin, was a deacon of the spiritual medicine department. He had been injured by Lin Muyu before. It seemed that the stone that was thrown a long time ago had finally hit his head. Qin Jin's expression was uncertain. Obviously, he didn't want to kill a talent like Lin Muyu. However, Zheng Yifan and Luo Xing were pressuring him. If he didn't kill him, it would definitely cause a backlash in the officials' hearts. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from outside. "The temple's Grand Deacon, Lei Hong, requests an audience." Before the voice even finished, Lei Hong had already entered the main hall, travel-worn. He waved his sleeves and cupped his fists, saying, "This old subject, Lei Hong, greets your Majesty. Elder Lei, you may rise." Qin Jin stood up and said very politely. It was enough to show how much he valued Lei Hong. He said, "Elder Lei, you must have come to the Zetian Palace for Lin Muyu's matter, right?" Lei Hong nodded and said, "Yes, this old man is pleading on Lin Muyu's behalf." Qin Jin said, "The officials want me to kill Lin Muyu, but Elder Lei is pleading on Lin Muyu's behalf. What do you expect me to do? Lei Hong's eyes shone brightly as he said, Your Majesty, Lin Muyu's crime is nothing more than releasing more than 200 concubines. He only saved 200 women. What crime is there? Your Majesty, the empire has flourished for thousands of years. How many women have died in the tents? They were born of parents and are actually the same as us. This old man would like to ask the heavens, where is the justice and righteousness in the matter of the concubines? Your Majesty subdues people with virtue and your prestige spreads throughout the world. Could it be that Your Majesty has never questioned whether the existence of the concubines is reasonable or not? Elder Lei Yu, Qin Jin was slightly stunned. The power of Lei Hong's words was obviously not something that Lin Muyu could compare to. If even Lei Hong was questioning the matter of the concubines, then Qin Jin had no choice but to reconsider. Lei Hong said indifferently, Your Majesty, please forgive this old subject for speaking bluntly. Many of the concubines are young women, and some are even similar in age to Her Highness Yin. May I ask Your Majesty, if Her Highness Yin was reduced to being a concubine as a father, what would Your Majesty think? Would you rescue those concubines like Lin Muyu? In this old subject's opinion, Lin Muyu is only doing something that others don't dare to do. She is not challenging the imperial authority or military law. Qin Jin pondered for a moment and sat down silently. Zheng Yifan, however, sneered and said, Great Deacon, you have quite a big tone. The strategy of the concubines was personally formulated by the founding emperor, Qin Yi's god of war, Xiang Wenian. Our soldiers have gone on expeditions to the south and the north, relying on their blood and vigor. They have been away from home all year round and have never encountered a woman. They have risked their lives to charge and break through the enemy lines for the empire. Should we not give them the rewards they need after victory? This is the nature of lust. If we don't give them the concubines, are we going to allow our soldiers to force women from good families? Lei Hong said indifferently, the concubine has always been an existence that distorts human nature. No woman is willing to become a concubine, and the majority of the concubines in the empire's army are women who have been forced into it. The emperor has bestowed grace upon the world, so why can't he bring some grace to these pitiful women? Minister Luo Xing sneered and said, It's easy for Great Deacon to say. If the concubines are removed, I'm afraid the soldiers in the barracks will be in turmoil. When the time comes, the army will start a mutiny. Will Great Deacon bear this responsibility? Lei Hong's voice turned cold as he said sternly, Will a mutiny occur in an army without women? If that's the case, then the empire's survival is already at hand. Lei Hong, watch your words. Minister Luo Xing shouted, Don't think that you can be so insolent just because you're a third-generation doyen. The emperor is above, and everything here is decided by the emperor himself. It's not your turn yet. Lei Hong smiled faintly, Minister Luo Xing, your tone is really big. At this time the Emperor Qin Jin's voice sounded, My dear ministers, please stop arguing. Everyone looked at the emperor, and Minister Luo Xing said respectfully, I wonder if His Majesty has a verdict? Qin Jin nodded and said, Considering that this is Lin Muyu's first offense, and that he once saved Xiao Yin's life in the dragon-seeking forest, he can be spared from death. But while he can be spared from death, he cannot escape punishment. Minister Jinqing, can you think of a surefire way to punish Lin Muyu? Zheng Yifan pondered for a moment and said, Why don't we send him into the Tower of Babel? The Tower of Babel? Lei Hong's body trembled and his gaze became fierce as he said angrily, Zheng Yifan, why don't you go into the Tower of Babel yourself? His Majesty has pardoned Lin Muyu's death sentence, but if you send him into the Tower of Babel, he will still die. Zheng Yifan said, That will depend on his luck. Moreover, no one has been sent into the Tower of Babel for 7 years, who knows what has happened inside. As long as Lin Muyu survives for a month in the Tower of Babel, then all his crimes will be pardoned. What do you think, Your Majesty? Qin Jin nodded and said, Approved. Minister Jinqing will send Lin Muyu into the Tower of Babel. If he can survive for a month, then he will be reinstated as a royal guard. Feng Jixing hurriedly cupped his fists and said, Your Majesty, please reconsider. The Tower of Babel is filled with demons, how can a mortal survive for a month in the Tower of Babel? Your Majesty, please let you go. Qin Jin said faintly, I have already made up my mind. General Feng need not say anything more. Guards, send Lin Muyu into the Tower of Babel. Send food and water to the tower once every 3 days. In addition, send 100 people from the Imperial Guards, Royal Guards and Military Police Battalion to guard the Tower of Babel. If Lin Muyu is really lucky, then he will naturally come back alive to see me. Lin Muyu raised his head and looked at the already aging emperor and said, Your Majesty, although I don't know what kind of place the Tower of Babel is, if I come back alive, are you willing to consider banning the existence of female soldiers? Qin Jin was slightly startled and his voice was very soft. Let's talk about it when you come back alive. Guards, escort him to the Tower of Babel. Several temple warriors from the Zetian Palace walked forward, twisting Lin Muyu's hands as they walked out of the main hall. Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, and Lei Hong also followed after them. Feng Jixing's face was ashen and he said, This is bad, this is bad. Big brother Feng, what kind of place is the Tower of Babel? Lin Muyu asked. Feng Jixing gritted his teeth and said, The Tower of Babel is a tower so high that the top cannot be seen, and it is located in the ruins to the north of the imperial capital. It is said that there are many things that are neither human nor ghost living in the tower, and it is impossible for a living person to come back alive. Many of the martial artists in the empire who have committed serious crimes have been sent into the Tower of Babel, but not a single one has come back alive. It is said that some people who have entered only to see piles of bones. Lin Muyu was silent for a few seconds and then said, Maybe I am lucky? Lei Hong said, Foolish brat, no matter how lucky you are, you won't be able to walk out of the Tower of Babel alive. At that time, there were 2 experts with the strength of the sanctuary who entered the Tower of Babel, and their corpses were found in the end. Do you think you are lucky? Qin Lei held the burning prairie sword and handed it over to Lin Muyu and said, Brother, you must come out alive. Lin Muyu looked at Feng Jixing and Qin Lei and couldn't help but feel a little emotional and said, If I really can't come back alive, then we can only be brothers in our next life. Feng Jixing's eyes reddened and he turned around, No, you can come back alive. Chapter 112. 4 or 5 miles to the north of Lanyan City, adjacent to the imperial capital, the area that should have been prosperous was a barren jungle. There were even some imperial guards guarding the periphery. About every 100 meters there was a squad of 5 sentries. Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, and Lei Hong protected Lin Muyu as they stepped into the forest. Xiang Yu led more than 100 heavy cavalry soldiers from the military police battalion and followed them from a distance. His mission was to personally witness Lin Muyu being sent into Tongtian Tower. As they went further and further away, blood-red thunderbolts appeared in the sky one after another. An ancient tower soared into the sky. It was impossible to tell how many levels it had. The tip of the tower was inserted into a dark vortex. The vortex was like the mouth of a giant beast in the sky. It seemed as if it would swallow the entire Tower of Babel at any time. Thunder and lightning flashed around the vortex, sweeping the surrounding land with gusts of wind. No one would have thought that there would be such a wonder so close to the imperial capital, Lanyan City. Lin Muyu looked up and couldn't help but feel a trace of fear in his heart. He was a mortal, how could he not be afraid in the face of such heavenly might? Feng Jixing grabbed the reins, looked up at the sky and said, It is said that the Tower of Babel is the entrance to another plane, but no one has entered it since ancient times. It has stood here alone for tens of thousands of years. Even those who have the power of the divine realm are not willing to enter the Tower of Babel. After you enter, you must be careful. Try to stay on the first floor and don't go up. With your ability, you may be able to survive for a month. Yes, I know. Lin Muyu slowly urged his horse forward. Suddenly, he felt a gust of chilly wind sweeping towards him, causing his battle robe to sway incessantly. The war horse he was riding on let out a long neigh and stood up. He hurriedly grabbed the reins and clamped down on the horse's body. Only then did he not fall off. However, animals were intelligent. For the war horse to be so frightened, there must be some ominous things in Tongtian Tower. Lei Hong said, You must be careful. Got it, Grandpa Lei Hong. Lin Muyu smiled brightly and patted the temple emblem on her chest. I still have to return to the temple to be a training partner again. Otherwise, I don't know how Xiling and the other training partners will be bullied. Lei Hong couldn't help but laugh. His nose turned sour as he said, Then Grandpa will wait for your return in the sacred hall. It's a deal. Qin Lei carried the thunder-split blade to the bottom of the tower and ordered, Open the door. Immediately 2 of the royal guards, whose faces were filled with fear, raised their hands and opened the seal on the heavy metal door. The metal door was filled with rust stains and was already covered with vines. They pulled with all their strength but were actually unable to open the door. Qin Lei frowned and went forward to grab the door handle with his hand. With a low roar, he forcefully pulled the metal door open. Immediately, a gust of chilly wind with a sharp whistling sound attacked the face of the commander of the royal guards. Buzz. The god-binding chains responded and came out. The golden light instantly dispersed the haze. The god-binding chains was a first-grade true dragon martial spirit and was known as the world's strongest light attribute martial spirit. 3 golden chains circled around Qin Lei's body, protecting him from harm while the 2 royal guards rolled and crawled away. Qin Lei frowned and said, "Useless things." Feng Jixing escorted Lin Muyu all the way to the bottom of the tower and said, You must be careful." Lin Muyu looked at the pitch-black scenery inside the tower and took a deep breath. She gripped the burning prairie sword tightly and smiled at Qin Lei. "Big brother Qin Lei, I'm going in." Qin Lei was somewhat moved. His face was filled with reluctance as he said with a trembling voice, You must remember to come out. We are still waiting to beat that bastard Xiang Yu up with you." Not far away, Xiang Yu's face darkened, but he did not flare up. The temple deacon Lei Hong was here, so Xiang Yu did not dare to act rashly. After all, no matter how strong he was not Lei Hong's opponent. Rustle, rustle. Lin Muyu lifted her battle boots and stepped on the steps that were filled with weeds and dust. Just like that, she walked up step by step without looking back. Feng Jixing's concerned voice came from behind. Your body is injured. Stay on the first floor to rest and recuperate during the day. Do not go to the second floor no matter what. Dang. Lin Muyu closed the metal door with the back of her hand. Immediately, it was dark in front of her. Rays of light shone into the 4 walls of the tower. Fortunately, it was not completely dark like this. The sound of chains being locked came from the metal door behind her. She would not be able to get out within a month. Bang. The small door on the metal door was opened. An imperial guard brought in food and water. They were all dry rations, enough for 3 days. The sound of footsteps faded away. Presumably, everyone had already left. At this time, Lin Muyu finally had the time to look at her surroundings. The stone walls of the Tower of Babel were covered in a layer of haze. There were even some words that he could not understand carved on them. It was probably some totem culture. The first floor was empty. It was about 100 meters in diameter and was very wide. There was not even a single decoration. It was just empty. The spirit pulse technique automatically extended out, and her spiritual sense slowly rippled. Lin Muyu sat cross-legged and slowly adjusted her breathing. At the same time, she extended her spiritual sense and entered the domain of the second floor. Suddenly, she sensed 3 extremely tyrannical forces lying dormant on the second floor. These 3 forces were sometimes strong and sometimes weak. It seemed like they were ready to make a move. He closed his eyes. He had to recover his strength as soon as possible. Those unknown forces did not seem to want to kill him at dawn. It would be hard to say if they would do so at night. Opening the bag that Feng Jixing had prepared, there was a lot of kerosene inside. Lin Muyu could not help but smile. Feng Jixing was more meticulous. This way she would not have to worry about the light at night. After circulating the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll 72 times, her whole body felt refreshed. Her meridians felt a sense of peace. Her injuries were basically healed. Moreover, the martial spirit gourd had been frantically absorbing the surrounding spiritual qi to replenish its consumed do qi. In less than a few hours, it had recovered to its peak state. Turning around, she looked into the distance. The rays of the setting sun were almost horizontal. The sun had set. The sky gradually darkened and the surroundings were silent. Only the faint sound of horse hooves could be heard in the distance. The Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards were all restricted to a distance of 1 li from the Tower of Babel. Moreover, it seemed like they did not dare to approach the Tower of Babel at night. Not long after, a strong wind blew outside. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. The light in the sky flickered. The dark vortex in the sky seemed to be wreaking havoc, forming a huge whirlwind that lingered around the Tower of Babel. Lin Muyu could not see the specific situation outside. However, she knew that there was something strange about the night here. Standing up, she lit a brazier and hung it on the wall. Then she ate some dry rations. Not long after, the sky completely darkened. Night had fallen. Under the detection of the spirit pulse technique, the few forces on the second floor were already restless. Lin Muyu also unconsciously held the hilt of the burning prairie sword. This sword was the only thing she could rely on here. Sha sha, a faint sound came from the stairs. Immediately, he vigilantly held the sword with both hands and his martial spirit slowly seeped out of his body. Jejia. Amidst the roar, A black shadow leaped down from the second floor of the staircase. Its sharp claws sliced through the air and went straight for Lin Muyu's neck. It was a killer move from the start. Lin Muyu was already prepared. She activated the falling star steps and slid her feet to avoid this attack. At the same time, the burning prairie sword drew an arc in the air and landed on the opponent's back. With a bang, sparks flew. The opponent screamed miserably and crashed into the wall. However, he quickly climbed back up. At this moment, Lin Muyu finally saw its true appearance. It was an ape. However, it was not an ordinary ape. Instead, it was an ape whose body was covered in a thick layer of stone. This was a stone ape. Its eyes were blood red and there were 4 golden lines on its head. It was clearly a spirit beast with a lifespan of 4,000 years. The blood-red light in its eyes was filled with violence. Suddenly, it leaped up and rushed over again. Jie. This time, a flame appeared on its claws. A vast flame energy surged on its claws. Lin Muyu knew the pros and cons. She raised her left hand and directly summoned the wall of the bottle gourd. Black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall were successful. She spat out her fighting chi and blasted out a demon sonic fist. Bang! The demon sonic fist didn't penetrate the stone layer on the stone ape's body. Instead, its sharp claws scratched a huge hole in the black tortoise shell. The flame energy collapsed, but it quickly recovered with the support of her recovery ability. Lin Muyu's heart sank. She quickly retreated several steps. Her eyes were cold and clear. She suddenly stomped on the ground and called out a gourd vine. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The vine quickly wrapped around the stone ape's body. How could she miss such a rare opportunity? Lin Muyu quickly circulated the true dragon essence fire in her palm. The burning prairie sword whistled through the air and directly blasted out with a dragon flame spiral break. At the same time, a chill came from behind her. There were still stone apes. 2 bloody lights rushed over from the darkness. The other 2 stone apes attacked. Lin Muyu quickly looked back and opened her palm. A gourd flower flew out of her body and spat out a mouthful of poison. The 2 stone apes were very intelligent and knew how powerful the poison was. They flipped their bodies in the air and dodged it. Behind them, blood splattered and screams of pain could be heard. The first stone ape had already been killed by the true Dragon Yuan Fire's Imperial Fire Sword attack. Lin Muyu grabbed the hilt of her sword, and with a flash of her body she slashed and attacked the second stone ape. However, she felt a chill on her back and her shoulder was injured. The third stone ape cleverly avoided the defensive surface of the black tortoise shell, and directly attacked her back. Fortunately, she had tempered her skin like copper and bones like iron, so her injury was not serious. There was no time to turn around. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and a bloody light surrounded her left fist. She locked onto the position of the third stone ape with her spirit pulse technique and turned around to punch it. Chaos of all life. Amidst the miserable howls and screams, the stone ape heavily smashed into the stone wall of the tower. However, the material of the heaven-reaching tower seemed to be very hard. The stone skin of the stone ape had already shattered, but the stone wall did not have a single crack. Lin Muyu saw the opportunity and raised her hand. Using the Imperial Sword of Lightning, she flew out with the burning prairie sword. In the next moment, the third stone ape's neck was pierced. After its stone skin was destroyed, its defense was much weaker. With the sharpness of the burning prairie sword, it could be easily killed. Chapter 113. The last stone ape was almost scared out of its wits. Seeing its companions die one by one, it opened its mouth wide and screamed. It turned around and ran. Lin Muyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This stone ape was a 4,000-year-old spirit beast, yet it was so cowardly that no one could see through it. Crash! The green gourd vine broke through the stone and quickly bound the stone ape. The strength of the gourd vine was closely related to the strength of Lin Muyu's battle energy. No matter how the stone ape struggled, it couldn't escape the binding of the gourd vine. Lin Muyu's palms were filled with raging flames. She quickly spun the long sword in front of her chest. Streams of flames turned into spiraling fire energy that lingered around the sword body. She quickly broke through the stone ape. The stone ape's skin was very thick. The normal attack of the burning prairie sword couldn't penetrate it at all. However, it was a piece of cake to use the spiraling power to break through it. Bang! The stone layer shattered and mixed with blood. The stone ape screamed and left with its companions. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. She used the spiraling break twice and the Shin energy of the first star. She had used about 30% of her battle energy. She didn't know if there were more powerful enemies waiting for her. She had to recover her strength as soon as possible. Holding the burning prairie sword, Xiaoqin dug out two 4,000-year-old stone ape spirit stones from the skull of the three-headed stone ape. This was a type of rock-type spirit stone. If used to forge weapons, it would be very good. It would make attacks sturdy, and ordinary opponents would not be able to block it. Sitting on the ground, she summoned the martial spirit gourd to refine the spirit of wild beasts. However, what Lin Muyu didn't expect was that the 6-layered green gourd seemed to be very picky with its food. It didn't even absorb any spirit of wild beasts before it was full. After several attempts, he couldn't refine the spirit of wild beasts. He had to give up. It seemed that Lei Hong's teachings were correct. After stepping into the heavenly realm, they had to rely on refining the spirits of wild beasts to increase their cultivation. This was because the power that heavenly realm experts needed was Do Qi, and the spirit of wild beasts contained in the bodies of spiritual beasts was Earth Qi. The two belonged to different natures. If a heavenly realm expert wanted to increase his cultivation, he could only rely on his own hard work and cultivation. It was no wonder that Feng Jixing and Qin Lei had not broken through after stepping into the first layer of the heavenly realm. With their talent, they should have broken through quickly. However, Lin Muyu was not anxious. Although his strength was increasing slowly, it was very stable. This was because the mental cultivation method of the Dragon Forging Bone Remnant Scroll could slowly increase his strength. At most, it would take 2 years or at least half a year. It was only a matter of time before he stepped into the second tier of the heavenly realm. However, he was still a little impatient, especially after he witnessed Xiang Yu's strength. Xiang Yu was known as the #1 person in the younger generation of the empire. This was definitely not an undeserved reputation. With his strength alone, he could contend against Feng Jixing, Qin Lei and Lin Muyu. In the end, it could also be considered a draw. This was a little too shocking. Feng Jixing and Qin Lei, these two young elites, were both dragons among men, while Xiang Yu pretty much belonged to the category of dragons among dragons. When he thought of Xiang Yu's eyes that were filled with killing intent, Lin Muyu could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Xiang Yu's bloodline originated from Xiang Wentian. He had the right to be unruly. Furthermore, Xiang Yu wholeheartedly wanted to get rid of Feng Jixing. This point also made Lin Muyu worried. Feng Jixing's style of doing things was eclectic and open-minded. The Imperial Guard that he commanded had always been the strongest barrier of the Imperial capital. If Xiang Yu wanted to obtain the position of the #1 person in the Empire's army, he had to get rid of Feng Jixing. After adjusting his breathing for close to 2 hours, the martial spirit gourd greedily absorbed the spiritual energy in the surroundings. What made Lin Muyu more gratified was that the spiritual energy in the vicinity of Tongtian Tower was very abundant. It was even more vigorous than in Lanyan City. Therefore, the battle energy in his body had mostly recovered. It seemed that coming to Tongtian Tower was not to throw away his life. Instead, it seemed that he had found the best place to cultivate. The night was long. He circulated the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll and the Spirit Pulse technique again and again to temper his body and soul. Meanwhile, the light from the oil lamp above his head flickered faintly. When dawn was about to break, his spiritual sense once again sensed a powerful force. Lin Muyu immediately became alert. He raised his hand and grabbed the hilt of his sword. Although the Spirit Pulse technique was mysterious, it could not extend to the 3rd floor. It seemed that there was something restricting him on the 2nd floor. It was like a barrier. The night wind blew on the Holy Temple's battle robe. At this moment, how could he care about the cold? His clear eyes were like twinkling stars in the night sky as he stared at the stairs in the distance. However, he did not see anyone. He did not even see a spiritual beast. Could it be a false alarm? At this moment, the spiritual pulse technique suddenly pulsated not far away, and a surge of energy leaped up. Lin Muyu let out a low grunt, and raised her hand to unleash a blazing hot Do Qi storm. Voila! The Do Qi swept across the ground and quickly blew out a human figure. As expected, the person who came was invisible. It was a very thin person with 2 daggers in his hands. The shape of his face looked very twisted and strange. It was like the face of an ugly monkey. His beard was not long, but every strand of it was like iron thorns piercing out of his skin. Fortunately, the Spirit Pulse technique could sense him. Otherwise, he would have been ambushed by this person. Who are you? Lin Muyu held the sword in his hand and asked calmly. The person licked his lips. His expression was indescribably wretched. He said, "It has been many years since someone was sent to Tongtian Tower. I thought that the Empire was safe and sound. I did not expect that a new person would come today. Kid, you are only my prey. Wait until you go to hell and ask me who I am." As he said that, he suddenly waved his dagger. A milky white light appeared on his arm. Do Chi. Another heaven realm rancor. Although the dagger was short, the Do Chi that surged out was at least 2 meters long. Lin Muyu quickly got into position. The wall of the gourd was placed in front of his chest to block the opponent's attack. However, he only felt his blood boil. The strength of the person's Do Chi was stronger than his. Dang dang dang. Her dagger was parried by the burning prairie sword several times in a row. Lin Muyu looked for an opportunity and gave a heavy kick. Do Chi shrouded her combat boots and sent her opponent flying a few steps back. The burning prairie sword flashed and instantly unleashed 5 slashes. This was the speed formula of the Imperial Wind Sword technique. The storm-like attacks could catch the opponent off guard. However, the thin assassin in front of him was not weak. His eyesight was excellent. With a flick of his wrist, the dagger danced like a butterfly, dispelling all of Lin Muyu's attacks. However, a trace of surprise appeared on his face. He did not think that this kid who had just been sent to Tongtian Tower would be so strong. Papa. Papa. Lightning flashed. Lin Muyu directly threw the burning prairie sword, using the thunder sword technique to attack the opponent. The assassin was stunned. He had never seen such an attack pattern before. He quickly brandished his dagger to parry the attack. Clang. He managed to parry the attack, but his arm suddenly went numb. Lin Muyu's attack was too strong. Damn it. He cursed and roared in rage, Yi Sha. In the darkness, his martial spirit was quickly released. It was like a ball of dark elements surrounding his body. Immediately after, the space seemed to distort and turned into a chaotic darkness. The assassin's figure disappeared again. Lin Muyu was slightly stunned. She finally understood why this person could become invisible. It turned out that he was relying on the power of his martial spirit to cover his eyes. She quickly activated the spirit pulse technique and sensed every trace of power in the surroundings. As long as the opponent attacked, his aura would definitely fluctuate strongly. At that time, she would not have to worry about not being able to find his position. However, this assassin seemed to be very patient. He did not appear for a full 10 minutes. Lin Muyu frowned. She could not help but feel a little anxious. At this moment, a cold wind suddenly blew in front of her chest. The opponent's 2 daggers had joined together and launched an attack. It was similar to Lin Muyu's fire sword technique. His daggers were surrounded by a spiral of dark energy, which quickly broke through the black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall. So strong. The defensive layer was broken through. There was no way to dodge. Either his heart would be pierced, or he would choose to attack other parts of his body. In a flash, Lin Muyu reacted. She moved half a meter with the star steps. In the next moment, she felt a sharp pain in her arm. A dagger had pierced through her arm and she was nailed to the stone wall. Hey! The opponent showed an ugly smile. I've already said you are my prey. Any resistance is futile. Is that so? Lin Muyu smiled coldly. The power of her martial spirit spread out in an instant. Vines extended from the ground. It was another entanglement ability, which quickly bound the opponent's feet. Damn it! The assassin glanced at the vines on his feet and said, "How dare you show off in front of me with such insignificant skills?" He stomped his foot and unleashed his combat energy, shattering countless vines. However, when he looked up, he saw a calabash spitting poison at him. Chi armor. He let out a low grunt, and his chi armor blew away the poisonous liquid. However, at this moment he felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. It was Lin Muyu's full-force punch. 2 luminaries' demonic dance. With the sound of ribs breaking, the assassin retreated with a pale face and fell to the ground. The power of the 2 luminaries' demonic dance was so powerful that he could not withstand it at all. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. She endured the pain and pulled out the dagger from her arm. She looked at it. Fortunately, there was no poison on it. She quickly took out a bottle of healing medicine and poured it on the dagger. She then looked at the assassin who was struggling on the ground and said, "Do you still think I'm your prey now?" The assassin exhaled more than he inhaled. He was about to die, but he still grinned and said, "So what if you kill me? The Blood Lord will not let you go." Blood Lord? Lin Muyu frowned. Who is the Blood Lord? The assassin did not speak. He tilted his head and died decisively. Lin Muyu was filled with hatred. It seemed that this invisible assassin was not the leader of the upper floors. It was already a little difficult for her to deal with this assassin. If the Bloodlord came personally, would she still have a chance? She bent down and searched the assassin's body. She found 2 diamond coins and a spiritual stone. She felt the spiritual power of the stone. It should be a fire spiritual stone that was around 5,000 years old. Not bad. Chapter 114. In the Zetian Palace Hall, a group of 12 maids were holding candles and lighting up the Sheji Palace lanterns. The candlelight shone on the white jade floor like flashing red stars. The late autumn breeze blew and the candlelight began to sneeze. One of the maids couldn't help but sneeze and said in a low voice, "The weather is getting colder." The maids whispered a few words and left the main hall of the Zetian Palace Hall, leaving only the bright moonlight shining on the floor tiles of the main hall. Whoosh whoosh, the night breeze ruffled her dark purple cloak. Qin Yin frowned slightly and walked quickly on the long corridor of the palace. The maids behind her could barely keep up with her. One of them said, "Your Highness, please slow down." However, Qin Yin's speed was not slow. She leaped and landed on the surface of the lotus pond in the pavilion. A ripple spread out, and this beautiful princess had already landed on the other side of the pavilion. Her snow-white skin was glowing with a faint golden light, and her god-binding chains martial soul was already on the verge of being released. The temple warriors hurriedly stopped her and said, "Your Highness, what are you doing?" "I want to see my father. His Majesty has already gone to bed. He has ordered that no one is to disturb him." "Then I want to see him too." Qin Yin raised her brows and her beautiful face was filled with charming arrogance. She insisted, "If you don't move aside, don't blame me for making a move." The guards looked helpless. At this moment, Qin Jin's voice came from inside the room. "Let Xiao Yin in?" "Yes, Your Majesty." Qin Yin pushed the door open and entered. She saw Qin Jin reading a scroll under the candlelight. His face was full of fatigue, and under the candlelight, this 47-year-old emperor's hair had already turned white. Qin Yin's heart ached when she saw this and she called out, "Father?" She didn't call for her father. Qin Jin couldn't help but laugh. He raised his head to look at his daughter and said, "It's been a long time since you called me that. Back then, I wanted you to call me Imperial Father, but I had to teach you for a very, very long time." Qin Yin's eyes reddened. She walked forward and gently knelt down in front of the table. The girl's beautiful hair flowed down her shoulders and fell on the files on the table. She looked at her father and suddenly didn't know what to say. "Are you here to plead for Lin Muyu?" Qin Jin asked. "Yes." Qin Yin nodded her head and said, "Father, Lin Muyu is an extremely simple and persistent person. I can almost guess that he wouldn't sit idly by when he saw Ying Ji being humiliated. He is just that kind of personality. You can't blame him for bringing people to destroy the nursery hall. Just like what Master Lei Hong said, the nursery hall has always lost its humanity, isn't it?" Qin Jin looked at his daughter with gentle eyes. I know everything. How can Imperial Father not understand what kind of person Lin Muyu is? But there should be a limit to how much he hates evil. As a member of the Imperial Guard, he personally brought people to destroy the nursery hall and publicly disrupted the Empire's military deployment. If it were anyone else, they would have been beheaded long ago. But Father? Qin Yin pursed her red lips, her beautiful eyes filled with stubbornness as she said, "Yu is my savior. If it wasn't for him, I would have died from poisoning in the dragon-seeking forest a long time ago. Just based on this alone, Father should be exceptionally kind to him." Qin Jin's eyes dimmed. "Xiaoyin, there are many things you don't understand. You're still young. What do I not understand? Father, tell me." "You weren't in the Great Hall today, so you don't know the Divine Marquis and the Minister's words." Qin Jin sighed. Half of the Qin Empire was conquered by Xiang Wentian. In the Empire's military, Xiang Wentian is a god and his status far surpasses that of an emperor like me. Xiaoyin, do you know that the commanders of the 4 armies stationed in the Lingnan region haven't participated in the annual military reward ceremony for 3 whole years? Even when Imperial Father sent them a written order, they didn't reply. Qin Yin was stunned. "Father, are you saying that the commanders of the Lingnan region have intentions of rebelling?" "I don't know about that." Qin Jin narrowed his eyes. 3 of the commanders are Xan Yifun's trusted aides, but the last one is an old general left behind by the late Emperor Fan Kai. If even he has intentions of rebelling, I'm afraid that Lanyan City's control over the entire world will change. That's why I suspect that someone is intercepting letters from Lanyan City in the Qinling Mountains. Qin Yin bit her red lips. Father, why don't we send someone to Lingnan to take a look? There's no need. Qin Jin heaved a sigh of relief and lay down on the chair behind him. Xian Yifan submitted a report this morning stating that the major armies of Lingnan are at war with the barbarians at the southern border, so communication is inconvenient. The birds used to deliver the letters have been shot down by the southern barbarians, so the letters can't be delivered to the commanders. However, Xian Yifan's report also contained a letter of allegiance. It's a joint letter from the 4 commanders, and their loyalty to the empire remains unchanged. Qin Yin looked at her father with her beautiful eyes. Father, although the Divine Marquis has great influence in the Empire's army, but Father should be able to see that Xian Yifan is no longer the Xian Yifan from 10 years ago. He has changed too much, becoming more arrogant and willful. He doesn't even respect you, the Emperor, in his eyes. Why don't? She blinked. Secretly order Brother Qin Lei and Commander Feng Jixing to find a chance to dissolve the Divine Marquis's military power in Lanyan City? Qin Jin sighed and looked at his daughter dotingly. The Divine Marquis's power in the Empire's army is already well established. As long as Xian Yifan doesn't have any rebellious thoughts, it's fine. Moreover, the Qin Empire has ruled the world for thousands of years and had nearly 100 emperors. The Qin bloodline has long been deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Xian Yifan's surname alone is enough to prevent him from ascending the throne. But, Qin Yin bit her red lips. If we blindly allow Xian Yifan's power to grow, how will we live in the future? Don't worry, Qin Jin said. At least the Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards are still in the hands of our own people. I've also secretly met with the vassals of Cangnan Province and Northern Province. With Duke Kanglin and Duke Muyun in charge of the northern region, the world won't be in chaos. Oh right, Xiaoyin, you haven't seen your grandfather for a long time, right? Grandfather? Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. He's busy with work. It's been a long time since he came to Lanyan City to see me. Qin Jin couldn't help but smile. Then in a few days I'll let General Feng personally lead the Imperial Guards to escort you to Muyu City to see your grandfather. Muyu City is where your mother grew up. You should have gone to see it long ago. Okay. Qin Yin nodded and suddenly changed the topic. Father, is there really no way to release you from the Tower of Babel earlier? He might be able to hold on for 1 or 2 days, but he'll definitely die in the Tower of Babel if it's any longer. I really can't. Qin Jin shook his head and sighed. If I release Lin Muyu earlier, Xian Yifan and Luo Xing will definitely put pressure on me. Maybe then they'll find a reason to rebel. Then? Alright then. Can I go to the Tower of Babel to see you? Qin Jin's tone immediately became stern. You're not allowed to go to the Tower of Babel. That's a forbidden area. Lin Muyu can die there but you can't. Xiaoyin, don't forget that you're the heir of the family. Your status is different. Qin Yin's eyes were red and filled with tears. She looked at her father faintly and stood up to bow like a lady. Then she turned and left. When she was a few meters away from the door, she suddenly stopped and said softly, Father, if Lin Muyu dies in the Tower of Babel, I'm afraid I'll never forgive you. Creak. The door opened and Qin Yin floated away. Qin Jin stared blankly at the empty door. He couldn't help but shiver in the cold wind. The weather was getting colder and colder. He muttered to himself and felt a strange feeling in his heart. He was proud to have such an outstanding daughter, but at the same time he was worried for her. Qin Yin was so kind, so she was probably not suitable to be the heir of the family. The only thing he could do was to handle the relationship between Qihai City, Muyu City, and Lanyan City. Muyu City was one of the 7 famous cities of the empire. It was guarded by Su Muyun, the father of Qin Yin's mother, Empress Jingda. Muyu City had a strong army with more than 200,000 soldiers. Qihai City was one of the 7 famous cities of the empire. It was guarded by Tang Xiaoxi's grandfather, Tang Lan. Its army was in no way inferior to Muyu City. Moreover, the Qihai Tang sect had long been established in Qihai City. This was also the biggest reason why Qin Jin had allowed Qin Yin to have such a close relationship with Tang Xiaoxi since she was young. Perhaps the relationship between Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi could maintain the close ties between Lanyan City and Muyu City? After thinking for a long time, this late emperor stood up and went to rest. That night Lin Muyu did not sleep at all. He was constantly on guard against any enemies that might come at any time. However, after that assassin, no one else came looking for trouble with him. Instead, he practiced the dragon forging bone remnant scroll again and again. That night, he went through 72 circulations a few times and the strength of his Do Chi increased by quite a bit. When a ray of light shone on the wall, he knew that it was dawn. After eating some dry rations, he hugged his long sword and went to sleep. He did this repeatedly, sleeping during the day and resting at night. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed and he hadn't been ambushed again. However, there was a problem that was bothering him. The corpse in front of him and the stone ape's corpses were emitting a faint stench. If he just left them like this, they would rot very quickly. When that happened, he would only be able to harm himself. After thinking about it, he decided that he had to get rid of these corpses. He reached out and grabbed the assassin's leg, dragging him step by step towards the stairs. The assassin was already dead. His head was banging against the stone steps, but he probably didn't feel any pain anymore. He released the spirit pulse technique and entered the second floor. He didn't find any enemies, so he directly went up to the second floor. However, the scene in front of him shocked Lin Muyu. The second floor was filled with skeletons, and piles of white bones were scattered everywhere. Needless to say, the people who were imprisoned in the Tower of Babel were not killed immediately. Many people were like him, dealing with the corpses here, and in the end, he became one of the corpses. Thinking of this, Lin Muyu couldn't help but shiver. He muttered to himself, Sora Aoi, Hatano Yui Okita Aoi, and other teachers, please bless me so that I don't die here. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.